All right, you lot, let's make television!
Your time has come, you smug bastard! The aliens are here! We're all going to die!
I'm gonna do a terrific show today, and I'm gonna help people because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
I'll try that again. Hello, everybody. It is I, and so far it is only I. Let's get into this private chat here. I want to make sure I can set private chat comments so I can make sure I can see everybody. Expert. Hey, what's going on? Listen, if anybody, I'm just going to say this instead of typing it. If anybody wants in to talk, you're more than welcome. Just say so, and I'll, I don't think I'm going to be getting any Russian hookers in here. In fact, let me put this up on YouTube so I can see, so I can actually put stuff in. Oh, actually, what I want to see is who's in. Because I can't wrench anybody from StreamYard. I don't think, can I? Yep. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I mean, that's okay that I did that. But all right. I'm boomering here. Let me get to my thing real quick. There, lives, this, volume. Turn that off, and then I can. Okay. Right, so if anybody wants to come in here, they can. But for right now, I'm going to share my what I'm working on here. Window, this. Okay, so this is what I was doing, working on yesterday. This is the pencil drawing I was working on yesterday, and hopefully I don't. Oops, I'm in the wrong thing. Right. I picked up a new monitor. It's not a Cintiq. It's one of those ones that you can draw on it, but it's not a really expensive one. It's sort of a Dave can be cheap sometimes, so that's what he's buying. And anyways, so that's what I'm working on. This here thing. I'm going to turn this into a vector graphic using Illustrator. And I'm just going to wait for Max to show up so we can talk to Max. But if anybody else wants to come in, again, say so in the chat, and I'll just throw the link in there. But I don't know how you guys feel about that. You might be, what do you call it? Talked out. Yes, thank you. Very nice. This is Max sent a bunch of pencils from Japan. I don't know that they may have been manufactured there. I am not for certain. But it was very kind, and so I figured a great way to thank him would be to produce something cool. So I drew this, and what I decided to do with it was get back into my my Illustrator and turn it into a vector graphic. If anybody knows what a vector graphic is, raise your hand. Oh, wait. Anyways, Max is a cool guy. But anyways, what I'm doing here, these are called Bezier curves. Can you actually see what's going on? Let's see if maybe I can zoom in. These are Bezier curves. And there's a bunch of different things that you can do with them. You can mess with these handles, and I just have this in a pink color so that I can see what I'm doing. And then you can make sharp corners. Whoops. And then you can make sharp corners and do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So I'm just going to trace around this, and then I'm going to see if I can turn it into like a window decal. I have a cutter in the back of the room there, so if I can turn it into a window decal, and I can send him something as well. But anyway, so yeah, this is what a Bezier curve is. What it's called. It's one of those things in graphic design that is often mispronounced. It's got like a European, what do you call it? European lilt maybe to it. But this is an opportunity to, it's sort of like inking over pencils in a comic book. You see opportunities to change or improve something, then you go for it. Like up, what am I doing? Up here in this area, I'm going to be changing that a little bit. I figure if I'm going to be paying was it something like $50 a month for an Adobe package, I might as well get as much mileage out of it as possible. Let's see, like this, I don't know that this loop actually should go here. I think it should, it should come off of here, is what I think. Come on. Maybe. We'll see. Let's see. There he is. I heard that familiar bink.
Hey, sorry about that.
Hey, no, it's okay. No need to apologize. We got friends here. I don't know if you can see that. Oh yeah, and I came over here so that I could wrench like everybody. I went over to YouTube so that I could like wrench people.
Okay.
Just throw wrenches out like that guy from Dodgeball. I didn't get everybody today. Hey, Susie says hi, Max.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Yeah, you have, and Texas Jen, she says she loves you.
Oh,
yeah, I know, man. It ain't easy being this pretty, is it?
Yeah. Keeps me married for a long time, I think. You know.
Is that right? I know. That's what I keep telling my wife. She just married me for my looks.
Yeah.
So how are you doing? What is it like? It's almost dinner time over there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 4:39 p.m. out here.
Yeah,
it's early for it's what 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning for you.
Yeah, well, I get out of work at 1:30. I just might keep it this way. I get out of work at 1:30. I even had time to throw some bad pizza down my throat and brew a cup of tea in lieu of what I normally do before 2023. In fact, I don't know if it's something that I'm doing on accident or on purpose.
Yeah.
But I haven't had anything to drink since Sunday.
You mean alcohol, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not dehydrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's normally I come home and there'd be a bottle of vodka sitting on top of the fridge. I'm like, great, I'm home from work, I can relax. But then you have one or two, you're tired, you go to sleep instead of like that's where your second wind ends up going.
Yeah.
And I keep complaining about not having time to do anything when in actuality I'm probably just being lazy. I've gotten a lot more of my extra work done over the course of the week than normal. So I think I'm going to stick with it.
Oh,
so whatever this, as long as I don't turn self-righteous. I can't stand when people do that. You know what I mean?
It's
that person that quit smoking and then 5 minutes later
there was a really interesting interview about a guy who I don't know if he's a writer or something. He's explaining to another commentator about what it was like when he quit caffeine. And but there was a point where he realized his self-righteousness kicked in and he described it as he's going to work and he sees all these people lining up for Starbucks, or he's going through an airport. Right. And so you need your coffee in the morning. And he sees all the people lining up for Starbucks, and he's thinking, I don't have to.
Yeah, well,
but at the end of the day, he went back to coffee. Yeah.
I know it messes with certain things. Caffeine does, and it's even like if you want to replace your melatonin with melatonin, even that's not all that good to do because now your body's not producing it naturally because it's coming from someplace else. I think
there's another guy on YouTube. I don't know how old he is. He has two channels. One is called Chubby Emu. The other one's called Heme Review. He teaches. I thought he was a doctor, but he teaches pharmacology at University of Illinois in Champaign.
Oh yeah.
And he usually covers these cases, actual cases, or I think he based on an actual case of a lot of times it's a poisoning, accidental food poisoning, purposeful, whatever. So he's it's. But what happened to him last year? You can find it. After he had done a documentary clip on a typical thing. Some moron puts like 50 grams of caffeine in overdoses, goes to the hospital. But when he was studying that, he bought himself, a tax deductible, nice coffee maker. And being a very precise individual, for about a year, he was brewing himself 2 cups of coffee that he'd have every day. So he knew, because of his work, that he was taking about 400 milligrams of caffeine every day. So no big deal, because
I don't
he
even
knows
know if that's a lot. Is that a lot?
Now, that would be like, okay, let's say in a certain drink it gives you 100 milligrams of coffee. That's like 4 of them.
Okay.
So he knew he had a kind of a quality. He knew the beans he was getting, and he could say, okay, these are 2 cups of strong coffee, 400 milligrams. So he didn't even think about it. But he went to he did a video shoot in Washington, D.C. He's in Illinois, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so his schedule is knocked out, and he doesn't have his homemade coffee maker and everything.
Right.
And so he goes without coffee for the first day. And the second day, actually, he's driving, and he has to stop over Walmart, and he's just like, his heart's going like crazy. He had to go and throw up in the men's washroom.
He probably had a
People are
headache.
staring at him. He's sweating. So
He probably
all
had
those
a headache
symptoms-
too, because I know like
Oh yeah.
you have too much caffeine, and at least it'll be like maybe 2 days from me, and I'll be like, man, I could use a cup of coffee, because it's not even like a migraine. It's just one of those ones that just sits there.
So this expert, it hit him so hard, and those symptoms were just like as if he had overdosed on caffeine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this expert, it hit him so hard, he didn't even have time to think that it would have been actually withdrawal symptoms from only 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. And then he kind of, I don't know, bought Mountain Dew at the Walmart.
Mountain Dew, that stuff is poison. Not just the caffeine, but like the sugar.
Yeah, but
Ugh.
but that was weird, because normally when you hear accounts of like a withdrawal symptom and you're going, okay, guy, maybe you were taking way too much in the first place. You're not. But this guy is very precise,
Right.
and that's why it was an interesting data point of one, because you thought, you know what, we're always talking about what happens when you take too much caffeine in a particular day, but for most of us who drink coffee, I never thought that if you stop it, that some of these symptoms, which are anxiety, nausea, and everything else, could actually be from not 2 days of skipping your normal coffee. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, your metabolism can go into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't have to be completely and totally wackadoodle, but your metabolism can do some pretty strange things, like just depending on what you started eating, stopped eating, or having too much of, having less of.
Yeah.
Most
Well, that's a pretty. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that a caffeine habit of 400 milligrams a day would hook you so that you couldn't do, you would start feeling it on the second day.
Pulling over and getting sick is, that seems like I might be getting OCD right here.
I've been an alcoholic.
This is usually what happens. I'll end up playing with these curves and I'm like, wait a second, because I'll see it in other people's stuff, especially if I see like a flame job on a motorcycle. I'll be like, oh, you got a fat spot there. This curve has a flat side to it. And when somebody lays out a flame job with by hand with tape, and it's absolutely perfect. That's really impressive. I mean, it's like the process of doing a flame job, is, I'm not going to say it's easy, but once you understand it, it's, you're masking these things off and painting them a different color and then pulling them up and then outlining and blah, blah, blah. But doing them by hand, I've seen people that have been doing them for years and still be able to find a flaw in it, which half the time I'm doing that, if I'm being honest, it's so that I can feel better about the flaws that I know that are in my work. I'm like, he's not perfect either. I can relax,
Hey, did you, how critical is it for the minute control of your fingers and your hand when you're sketching? I mean,
but when I'm sketching, you mean like
you're doing lines with hand or?
Well, I mean, it's when you're, it depends on what you're using. So there's going to be different levels of control. For instance, if I'm drawing like with a pencil or a pen, my wrist is stabilized on the surface. So it's really just my wrist and my hands. And if I'm working on something bigger, your arm. But for drawing, you've got some stability here. When
that's what you have. Okay, you got a brace.
No, this is because the monitor that I'm working on is you draw on it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And this just keeps in fact, I don't even know why I have it on because I'm using the mouse right now. But you can draw right on the monitor, and that just keeps you from getting oil and smudges and stuff from your hand on it. That's what the glove is for.
I don't know if they still do it now, but maybe from the 70s or 80s, maybe 90s, maybe even still now. From around the age of 35 or so, surgeons will have just minute, hardly detectable tremors in their hands, and it wouldn't bother most people. But so they and it's from say age mid-30s, and so they would take propranolol, which is the world's first beta blocker. What was it?
Beta blocker. Isn't that for like heart medicine?
Exactly, a beta blocker. Yeah, the first beta blocker was propranolol, and it was invented by James Black, and he got a Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1980 or something.
Well,
88. Anyways,
thank God they didn't need it for
the propranolol was also used for stage fright.
Oh yeah, how about that?
In the day, because what it does is it's kind of lowering your blood pressure and working.
How do I get some of this? I'm going to my doctor because he's like, your blood pressure, you're borderline like hypertension, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I can see myself having a little bit of, and I'm not like debilitating or anything like that, but I think one of the reasons why I might go for a shot of vodka before I get on the stream is so that I can feel a little bit more comfortable about myself.
So propranolol is you might even get it, with those offshore pharmacs, generic. There's the brand name is like Inderal, so I can't remember. It was like
okay.
And you want to be careful because if you take too much of a blood pressure lowering medication, you could be like, whoa.
Well, yeah, you can. I mean,
but it wouldn't be bad, in some ways. When you look at these blood pressure medications, I don't have friends, I've had friends, relatives who are in the old days, probably still do have been prescribed Warfarin, which is a blood thinner. But
a blood thinner, yeah.
But what really gets me was a lot of friends are saying, what do they prescribe? And they go, oh, it's a CCB. And I said, calcium channel blocker? I said, whoa, that is a kind of almost like a pharmaceutical solution. Like I know an old lady who swallowed a fly. And then,
I know a lot of that stuff is that you take it. In fact, that's one of the things where I know a lot of people think that it's a good show and that it was popular. But every time, and the only reason I started watching it was because I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I have that. I have that CD. I have, what is it? I have Massive Attacks Mezzanine, which is where the theme for House comes from.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll watch this for a second because this is good music. A little bit of trip hop.
You like
know what I
yeah.
mean? But then I watched the show and I'm like, wait a minute. All this guy is doing is feeding different medications to these people and waiting to see what happens. And almost, I mean, and that might not be like that in every single show, but every time I sat down, that's basically what was happening. Let's do this test. Okay, well, they've got this. All right, well, then we'll give them, I like it better when it's flat on the top here. Then we'll just give them this drug. And then their whole system freaks out and they try something else. And then, like, wow, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, well, remember, they for the purpose of the show, they it's like a crime show. They speed up the timeline.
Sure.
But in a lot of times, if you're going to a physician and it's a case where it's unclear, you unlike the program, they're not going to be checking. So how was it and monitoring it? You're going to come back
well,
in a
yeah,
couple weeks.
there's
Yeah.
Well, I was what did he give me? He gave me like half of the lowest dosage just to see if it would improve anything, and all it really is something that keeps that's supposed to prevent your body from absorbing salt. I'm like, all right, well, that sounds harmless, because usually, I mean, like, I take vitamins. I have I don't I drink plenty of water.
You don't have hypertension. Why do you want
what?
You don't have hypertension then. Why would they be giving you something?
Like borderline, like they don't like where it's trending is all. But I'll make fruit smoothies. I don't eat like a complete and total jerk. I can't remember the last time I went through a drive-through. That's mostly because I just don't trust the people on the other side of the glass anymore. I called Domino's, or not Domino's. I never called Domino's. It was a Little Caesars to get a like a deep dish pizza 3 times. There, I hold up 2 fingers. 3 times I had to tell the lady what I want, and she's like, okay, what? What? Okay, what? And the 3rd try, I'm like, no, I'm not doing this, because you're probably going to poison me at this point. Anyways, there's a whole bunch. Are you watching the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I'm not hiring you, or I should say, I'm not recruiting you to watch the chat, but it's something that I discovered the other day.
I mean, the comments on the right-hand side?
Yeah. Are you? Because you're in the back room, right?
Yeah, in the back room.
But yeah, you're in here with me. No, the reason I was asking is because I find that all the channels that do this kind of stuff, where the one person that's on the channel is like I'm doing something on the computer, excuse me, and that's where my attention is. Okay. That it always helps to have somebody else like watching the chat, because people will be saying stuff to me and I will totally miss it because I'm just into my own thing. So like, I'm not recruiting you, but I do think that I need some kind of a like a steady partner, or at least a second half for doing stuff like this. Just so that, because I don't want to be rude. I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm going to be doing this stream. Now come hang out with me while I ignore you.
Did you want me to read them?
Oh no, you don't have to. But I mean, if somebody has a question about what I'm doing, that would be great. And then if you have a question about
the comments
what I'm doing,
are kind of what we're doing. People, Susie tries talking about coffee, and Melissa Jane's. Oh, Susie. The last comment of Susie is, you should see how much salt in some vegetarian dishes offered to some restaurants.
Yeah, they're talking us too, because we're really cool and everything. That's what I heard.
Should. You're not still taking that salt.
No, that was like a couple of months ago. The prescription ran out and I didn't renew it.
Yeah, I mean, look.
But it's like, seriously, it was literally half of the lowest dosage that they give anybody. And, but the thing that you were talking about even sounds better.
Oh, purple. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're just trying to, when you're trying to counteract sodium, right? Then you want more potassium, kind of. It's that whole electrolyte argument.
Yeah,
right?
And they tell you, that's one of the things they tell you, that when you take it, you're supposed to eat it with a banana.
Oh yeah, so bananas, dark leafy
Sure.
vegetables, potassium. Potassium's hard to get in the quantity that they supposedly tell you. You need like 3 to 4 grams of it. And I thought, well,
Really?
I'm not going to eat 7 bananas.
Well, no, but I'll have a
Mm-hmm.
banana. I'll put it in in my smoothie.
Yeah.
What I put in my smoothies is I put in a handful of baby carrots. It's going to be baby carrots, broccoli, banana, avocado, and mixed berries. You know what I mean? Some blueberries, strawberries, and stuff. And then I add orange juice and I mix that up. And if I'm feeling real fancy, I'll crush up some almonds and put those in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're saying all the potassium they want you to eat is hard to get to, or at least it's not common in a common Western diet.
So no, I can think of, like, for example, magnesium. I can't recall. Is it 600 milligrams a day? And so fine, you can get there. If you want, you can get a supplement to make sure it goes up, but there's a lot of stuff in there. Zinc, actually, I think it's, if you're trying to hit a net absorbed amount of, say, 25 milligrams a day, then it's kind of hard. You probably would want to buy a zinc supplement. But
you see, now there's a nutritionist my daughter was seeing that was saying that she was saying that the when you take zinc, you don't take a ton of it. It's one of those things that you have a homeostasis with it. You take some, and it's in your system, but if you take too much, it's not really going to do anything.
No, I disagree. So I was explaining the amount of, so certain things you just really do not want to take too much of. For example, copper.
Right.
And you can get a supplement. They'll say, oh, it's a 1 milligram, what I've recommended. And I'll say, okay, let's say any substance is X milligrams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you buy a supplement for it, and you don't realize that maybe you're eating a lot of beef liver and your sesame seeds, and you don't want to overdo your copper.
You're getting it from places you didn't expect.
And you're silly enough to store your vodka in a copper flask and for your Moscow mules, and then you're going to get copper toxicity. But zinc is interesting because your body doesn't store it. You need it every day. But the amount, I don't know what the USRDA is, like 15 milligrams net or something like that.
I'm not sure either.
But if you were to take like 500 or 600 milligrams a day, which is a ridiculous amount, say somebody is a moron in eating those gummies, right? It would still take about 6 weeks. It would take 6 weeks for, like to say, okay, you're.
Oh, you mean multivitamin gummies? Or are you talking about something else?
Yeah, multivitamins, not weed gummies or anything.
Right.
So
like
that's why when so I normally take like 50 milligrams of a zinc supplement, and I say gross amount. So it's like zinc oxide or zinc. And someone goes, "Wow, when should I get?" And I said, "I don't care." And someone starts telling me, "Well, the bioavailability of this is 27. This is 43." And I said, "I don't care. Why don't you care?" I'll say, "Listen, I'll take a 50 milligram tablet of zinc oxide, which you've wagged your finger and said it's the lowest grade or whatever. You know what? Let's say it's a 25 or 30% bioavailability, right? I'm still getting above 20, a 20 milligram net. That's what I'm looking for."
It just occurred to me that we should probably say something like, neither one of us are doctors. Don't listen to us.
Don't.
But
look it up yourself. But the so then what about if you take 100 milligrams of these stuff? I'll say the same thing. I just the rough range of bioavailability, I'm still well below. So
right.
Why is this important? Because I think maybe it's like 3 years ago we had this. We can't talk about it on this channel, but what might be coming around again, what happened 3 years ago was the ACE2 receptor. So it's a it's an isometalloenzyme, and everyone was losing their ass about this. And I said, "Hey, did you ever start looking at this? It's an iso enzyme. Yeah. Okay. It's an isometalloenzyme. Yeah. Do you know what the metal is? And I said it's a single ion of zinc.
Is that it?
And then when you understand it, you go, that's why you want to have an adequate level of zinc at all times. I said, yeah, that's it. And
yeah, that's why that's like zinc was part of the therapy that got poo-pooed by everybody who was going to lose money on the jab.
Oh yeah, so we wanted to. So that's what the thing with, for example, hydroxychloroquine you buy it over the counter in India and places like that. The theory was, I could be wrong, was that it was a zinc ionophore. That's what they're saying. It helps zinc enter the cell membrane. And so you're thinking
right.
About it, and I said, okay.
And there is just like aluminum. There's certain things that promote the absorption of aluminum into your system, which is what causes Alzheimer's, I believe.
Yeah. So then you go, okay, what's the blood half-life of HCQ? And I said, that's 22 days. The plasma half-life is 40. So if you were to take like a kind of a below, I mean, people with rheumatoid arthritis are taking like a gram of it prescribed, and that's why you got to check your blood levels for liver enzyme. But say you're just taking 400 to 800 every 2 weeks. Someone said, what good is that? And I said, well, blood half-life is 22 days, do the math. But then the whole point is, what's the theory untested on why it might work? Oh, it helps zinc penetrate the cell membrane. And then you're thinking, well, why don't I just not have a borderline level of zinc every day and not go totally weird so then I'm in trouble and do that? Then you kind of don't need that, which is kind of it. And then you have people who said, do you know that zinc depletes copper? And I go, yeah, I realize that. But like most of the people like Sue, you would go, wherever possible, just look for a natural source. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
On Fridays, we had to eat fish if you're Catholic, and we had those rules, JP1, JP2, and all that. But hell, I don't know if people did this. Kids hated it. Like beef liver, like once a week.
No, my mom tried to do that. Like we're going, and this is the thing that really pissed me off. Just this one moment in my childhood that absolutely pissed me off. Like, okay, we're going out to dinner. Okay, we're going to go to one of those places. It's like your favorite place to go to dinner, kids. Okay, great. We're going out to dinner. And then your parents order for you. Like what? Why? She goes, well, she's not going to cook liver and onions. She's going to get it from someplace like Eaton Park. Now, okay, I understand you want me to have liver and onions. That's great. But you want me to have it from a place like Perkins? You know what I mean? Like, like the next step above a Greasy Spoon Diner. That's where you want me to get the liver and onions from. I could tell you horror stories about the health nut part of growing up with my mother and her cooking. Suffice it to say, I can eat anything now because no matter what it is, it's going to be more interesting or more edible than her cooking ever was. Yeah. So I feel pretty safe.
Oh, that's good.
So thanks, Mom. That's one of the things you got to look on the bright side. Your mom was a bad cook. Well, the world is literally your oyster now, as far as being an Epicurean. You can appreciate everything that you weren't allowed to have when you were a kid.
Oh, I got something. Susie said, okay, so her mother-in-law found out that she's
VP 12 shots. Yep.
Okay, actually, so if you're, I wouldn't recommend being a vegan or a vegetarian because they always claim it's the near perfect diet, but then they're going to be in B12. But you go from B12. So what's this stuff? You might start with a cobamine, and people have absorption problems. You go to methylcobamine, but if you have something screwed up with your lower intestine, I didn't realize this because a lot of the like vitamin D3, B12, it's absorbed by the soft tissues of your lower intestine. I forgot all about this. And so what if you get something like small intestinal bacterial overflow? That means like your small intestine has all this bacteria that your stomach is supposed to kill, with all the acid and everything. But somehow your duodenal sphincter is left open. It's the barn door left open. Or you have
is that the lower one or the upper one?
We're talking about the lower intestine.
No. I mean, there's two stomach sphincters, right? There's the upper and the lower.
Okay, so up you go between the stomach and the small intestine.
That's the exit door.
Yeah,
for the stomach.
So if you are, for example, say you're on a calorie restricted diet and you're not eating a lot fats or protein because it's a vegan thing, and you're snacking all the time because it's low calorie, that sphincter it's kind of open. It doesn't close. How you close it is a big piece of greasy fried chicken, because you get your fat, you get your protein, your stomach will put on all that hydrochloric acid, and then gallbladder pancreas is going to pour in the bile to absorb fat. But meanwhile, I didn't realize that, but that sphincter, you eat that fried chicken or whatever, not something like crackers. It's going to close that sphincter for sometimes over an hour. And this is something I didn't realize, because we always had these older brothers who gave you this bro knowledge, like, hey man, like before you go drinking like olive oil or milk, it's going to coat your stomach. But that was all wrong. If you had something fatty and you triggered the hydrochloric acid in your stomach and the bile and everything, and it closed that sphincter, that's what you were looking for, because a sphincter, when it's closed, when you were drinking alcohol, it's absorbed at only 20% the rate.
Yeah, it doesn't get all the way into the rest of your system where all that cilia can absorb all the alcohol.
Say you don't eat anything and that sphincter is open, you have your drinks, the alcohol is going and absorbed in your small intestine at 5 times the rate. And you can get knocked off your feet for that. But going back say you have some issue with your lower intestine, small intestine, then you're not going to absorb. It doesn't matter what quality of B12 you're going to get orally, it's not going to absorb. Same with D3.
So, whoops, sorry about that.
So you got to get the shot, and the shot is what do they call it? Well, they inject it into your intermuscular injection of B12 right into your.
Yeah, I saw it in an episode of Mad Men once.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. They had a doctor come in, like he
was giving them
they were hitting some kind of a deadline. They had to have a doctor come in and give everybody a B12 shot.
He told him his vitamins, but I think he gave him speed.
That's what I think. You know the one I'm talking about. The one dude had a broken leg or broken foot, and he's like, "Look, I don't feel anything." He's smacking it off the floor.
Yeah, they were drinking. What were they? What was the Mad Men? They were doing the Canadian Club CC for old fashions and.
Are you talking about before the guy runs upstairs because the elevator's busted and he throws up all of his oysters?
Oh, that was a revenge trick, because he was getting, so he wanted, he purposely did that so he could, I think, so he.
No, they had to, well, they're all smokers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're in the bar drinking, having oysters, and then they get in the elevator and the elevator's busted. So the only way they can get up to this meeting they're supposed to be at is to climb all the steps. And by the time they got up there, they were just wiped out. These guys, I mean, they're like in the 1960s. It's the 1960s diet. It was. I mean, I love that show. I thought it was quite an eye opener.
No, I don't think anyone thought about it as part of the plot. And I'm sorry, it's a spoiler, but no one really discussed this. I said, "Wow, this is kind of an amazing that plot line about identity theft."
Oh yeah. What was it? That wasn't. Yeah, I can't remember what his name actually was.
Don Draper, but it
was something else. Yeah. Yeah, it was something else. But yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the chat for just a second. So I was taking a bunch of vitamins, but now, I mean, I take a I take a multivitamin, and then whatever else is in the cabinet, I basically look on the bottle and I go, is this in there? No. Okay. Well, then I'll take that one. And so now it's a mix and match of the stuff that I was taking versus the stuff that I'm taking now. And because I don't know, somebody said vitamins are good for you at some point. So I started, well, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Where's my star tool? Let's see if I can manipulate the star tool enough to do this.
Oh, I gotta get
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means I need 16 of them. Where is it? It doesn't tell me how many there are. So, I know we probably talked about this before, and then me being having the mind of a drug-addled maniac. I don't remember what you do for a living.
Oh,
because it sounds like you do quite a few things. I was on the board of a cybersecurity, kind of obscure cybersecurity. Oh, see, that's all you had to say. Like, how did you get my address? I work in cybersecurity. Oh, that's how.
No, but I'm not. I was like on audit supervisory, whatever.
Audit supervisory.
Yeah, hold on for a second. I'm trying to do two things at the same time.
Yeah, I hate when that happens. I do it.
And I'm here. I'm inside here right now. Okay. I got a message from Winning Reality, and
oh yeah,
I thought it was the message he sent. I just kind of glanced at him, and I thought it was you. So I go, oh no, I'm talking. Then I realized, oh no, it's from him.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I told I don't know if I would consider it to be like flooding. Shoot, that's not right. That's not straight either. I need to get a.
Oh, Susie tried vitamin A. Okay, I'm not going to explain it very well, but I never differentiated in my mind between the source of the vitamin A. What is it? Palmate, plant-based source, like retinol palmate, probably saying it wrong, versus an animal fat-based source. And it's going to be different in terms of its absorption, toxicity, and everything else. And so what I've done is I found that when I buy vitamin A supplements, I don't buy the ones that are sourced from plants. And it's still very difficult. When I read the label, sometimes they have both in there. So, but according to the labeling rules, if it's you have to mention the substance that you have more of first. So, and if you want to understand the reasons, you can look it up. But I think it makes a big difference because they just go, oh, vitamin A is A, and it's not, especially if you're taking the amounts, through supplementation.
There was one documentary I was watching talking about what you think one thing is and it isn't, because they're basically redefining or using a very loose definition of what the thing is supposed to be, is fluoride, the fluoride that they put in water. Why is that saying I can't do two over intersecting paths? That the fluoride that goes in our water is basically a waste product of chemical manufacturing plants in China or something like that. They need to get rid of it, so we get rid of it for them, and we just put it in the water, and they call it fluoride. It was one of the weirdest things I'd ever seen. In fact, it was like, but so what you're saying is like the vitamin A that you're getting from here is not the same kind of vitamin A that you would get from there because your body absorbs it differently.
Yeah, so there's kind of different sources of vitamin A. Let me get
Like
more
carrots.
precise on it.
Or is that E? E for eyes.
No, carrots will have a So okay, so they're going to have kind of two principal forms, and I think we still kind of focus on there's two forms. It's the carotenoids, the alpha carotenes, the beta carotenes, the gamma carotenes. These are the ones which seem to be, these are kind of like provitamins, so they convert into retinol. But then I think retinol is where we find vitamin A in animal source foods, So it's retinol is bound to a fatty acid or something like that. And I think that, and as long as you're not really doing something really dangerous, like consuming, what is it? I think everyone knows now, you don't consume like polar bear liver or something like that because it's so high in vitamin A, and you get
polar bear liver
poison. Yeah.
How do you get one of those?
No,
I mean, really.
Kill it. Yeah.
So it's got kind of hard to get, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But when you look at the diet of the Inuit North, what do they you see what they eat and they don't eat,
Yeah.
And I don't know if
I
it's
thought they were just
pseudoscience,
trying
but
to stay warm.
Those Icelandic guys, those crazy Icelandic people, they actually take shark liver is another thing. And there's a food where they just ferment it. It's rotten shark liver.
Rotten shark liver.
And they by basically breaking it down through fermentation, even though it stinks to high heaven, it makes it edible. So there's how they found that out.
Isn't that like what or fermented? You mean like? Well, I guess fermented isn't
breakdown. A fermentation, any sort of breakdown process. So we actually have that with older foods. We're going like what? And so when
I was going to say, is that another way of saying it's pickled? Pickling
is a different process, but okay. Fermentation, for example, like soybeans, right? Japanese have natto, so there's a bacillus that's introduced and it breaks it down. Or like, look, grapes, yeast, that break down the fermentation, and we have
make wine, or makes.
And so we're always thinking about the nice products that we get from fermentation, but there's also things. It's not fermentation, but other forms of processing that are kind of important. Remember, have you ever gone camping? Because we grew up with.
I'd like to go more, but
okay. So we go. You get. Say you're making chili. Any number of ways to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can get your beans canned. You can get them dried. We don't really think about it, right? But say you're going out and you've just gotten like navy beans or something, right?
Navy
you're
beans,
going like,
beans.
I've done this 100 times before. But you know what you don't do? You don't soak them overnight. You don't soak out the toxins. So if you fail to do that,
that's what makes you gassy.
Everyone's going to be running to the toilet.
Yeah.
You just create food poisoning, right? Okay.
Right.
So now we have, not beans aren't good for you. There's a thing that you need to do to detox it. Same thing, Hawaii with the taro root or something there.
I heard the same thing about peanuts, that if you're going to get nut protein, one of the things you want to eat, and I love that. I keep a huge bag of them in my lunchbox all the time. Pistachios, the shelled ones.
Okay, so peanuts are legumes, but the pistachios, seeds, the other thing, but you want to do is this. The Aztecs and the Mayans, I always get the thing wrong. There's a process for corn called niacinamidation. I always get the pronunciation wrong, but basically it's this. Let me get the pronunciation right before I do it. Just like with beans,
I thought maybe you froze for a second.
Okay, it's nixtamalization. Nixtamalizati. So basically, it's where you take the dried kernels of the corn and you cook them and you steep them in an alkaline solution, like lime. You take food grade lime, calcium hydroxide. And
calcium hydroxide. Okay.
Okay, so you just soak it. Like, this is what you do with beans. And then you wash it and then you hull it. What you're trying to do is you got to remove that the paracrack. It's like with sorghum too.
You're taking the farts out, is what you're doing.
No, but you're taking a number of things out. You get rid of some of the things you can't absorb.
Right.
The hemicellulose and stuff like that. But here's the thing. And these Aztecs and Mayans knew to do this, right? Because if you have a corn-based diet, and and you don't do this, you know what's going to happen? You're going to have malnutrition because you're not going to get the benefits of it's going to kind of pass through.
That happens all the time.
That's
the thing about corn.
Yeah, but let's say you are in the South. And this is what happens. The diet changes over the winter right now.
Are you listening? Are you listening, expert? You're in the South.
No, but this is what happened. They had this disease, and they thought it was like it came every spring. And if you were black or you were white, didn't matter so much as if you were poor. And it was like they thought it was like a flu or something. And you had rashes, and it was. So they had this. Weird kind of, it was maybe 1800, this kind of eccentric doctor from Hungarian Jewish doctor, Gold something, and he was hired by the government to say, can you figure out what the hell it was? Because everyone thought it was like a contagious disease, right?
I was going to go with a super government experiment, but
it's pellagra. The disease is pellagra. It's a vitamin deficiency.
Okay.
He realized that poor whites and poor blacks there was no tradition of processing the corn to release the nutritional benefits, and you're dependent on cornbread and everything else during the winter months. That's what people are getting.
So you were good. You were good there, but without that processing.
Yeah, and so that was he discovered that, or he figured he solved the problem. Amazing, because usually when the government hires an outside expert and everything.
Yeah, we know how that goes.
Yeah.
An outside expert on what? Yeah. Destroying the planet.
Yeah.
With fusion.
So he had he did some really gross experiment though. That was probably really disgusting. I can't.
Okay. Hey, no, you know what? For this channel, it's par for the course. Most of the time, whenever I'm on a stream, I'll talk about. I can say what it is that usually I end up talking about, and I'll leave it blank. An expert will be able to fill it in. I guarantee you.
Right.
Every time I'm on a stream, what does the subject matter always turn to? Expert, answer the question, please. He'll tell you. He knows. And it's not something that happens on purpose. It's just sort of how things end up going.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's going to type it in there. I know he's going to get it right. Oh, jeez, never mind. All right. I lost my faith in you. No. We just replaced the septic tank in our house. Somewhere along the line in every one of my streams, the subject matter.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that.
Literally goes to shit. So let's keep talking.
Wait, I remember you gave me a diagram of that, and I was wondering. I said, "Is it far? Is it far enough?" Or there was like 20 meters, 30 meters. Oh well.
Yeah, it had to do with. I think it had to do with capacity.
Yeah.
And the way that this old neighborhood is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it goes to the septic tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm still waiting for the grass to come in. They whenever they're done with the yard, they put the dirt back. They put a whole bunch of grass seed down, and they put a whole bunch of straw over that, so that it kind of hopefully it protects the seed from the cold. But whatever, something green will grow.
I remember
there.
that. Okay, how I got when you received. It wasn't that difficult. Just sending you those pencils, because you and I had emailed each other afterwards.
Yeah.
When you emailed me, you had most of the stuff. And then
I have my phone number
in
there, my contact information.
I sent you an email, but it went in your spam box. A couple of them.
Right.
I said, "Hey, man." And so I was explaining, I was going to send you the pencil head, but you know what? The bloody new rules have changed and they want an outrageous amount. So then I looked in the States. I said, for the same ridiculous amount, I can get you 2 packs of the #1 premium wood case pencils in Japan, the Tombos and the Mitsubishi.
Yeah, you're basically talking about drop shipping.
Yeah. No, not drop shipping. I just went to Amazon. I have an Amazon US account.
Right.
And then I sent it, but then I also emailed you and I said, hey, it's coming. It's going to take a few days.
And it must have gone to my junk.
But
either that or I forgot all about it, and I just because when I go into my email, I go through a whole bunch of addresses, and the ones that I recognize,
I also sent you the USPS tracking number on the 17th, but you didn't see any of it, so I can imagine out of the effing blue. And I don't know how it's not like Amazon, but it would be one of those. When I ordered it, I understood it. Yeah, and so how they packaged it, and you're getting it, and that could freak you out if you were like, if you were being stalked or something.
Well, no, I wasn't. I mean, I would joke about that because it's it's the thing that's you joke about the stuff that it's like the person in the hospital with a great sense of humor is the guy that works in the morgue. Kind of like that. We joke about the stuff that we're really kind of like, I wonder what that's all about. But no, like I have all this Comicsgate stuff that's coming in. There's like books that you'll back them, and then you'll get all of these updates and the email and stuff like that. And I usually just forget about them. Like I paid the money. I know it's going to show up at some point, so I'll see something in the mail like, oh, I wonder what this is. I wonder what I ordered. People are ordering stuff all the time. But that was, it did it. I was like, oh, it was very sweet. So that's why I wanted to, produce this. I actually honestly didn't know how I was going to do it, but it was fun to figure out.
Oh, I can't go in there. Sorry. Oh, hold on. I went into this wrong room by mistake. I can't do it. Gotta get out of here. Because I'm going to screw up the sound. Sorry.
You're what? Are you talking?
I went into a Discord room.
Oh.
And
I'm still a total art
hey, dude, wait a minute.
When it comes to Discord. Like I had to I had to ask Cool Frog where it was, because I remember talking to you on his stream. I'm like, how do I find him in Discord? Because I couldn't, I'm terrible at that.
Yeah, me too. I'm not.
Discord is it's like a much more detailed version of an old AOL chat room, isn't it? But that's all it is.
I guess so. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's kind of a oh, this is hitting my bandwidth too. Okay, good.
Let's see.
Septic tanks. Oh.
Yeah, I know. It
so
was the thing is, it was like it was so expensive. It was one of the only things that was on my mind for like a while. Because you're like, okay, I had this, like this money that you had saved up for something completely different, and then you know, it's not just that, but then it's scheduling the thing, and then you're talking about like building permits, and like I don't want to do that because then it's gonna bring this government official in, and they're gonna want to change stuff around, and you know, it was I much rather have I got a guy, you know. But I'm glad. I'm glad we did. See, what I need to do now is get off my ass and use this what is clearly a real estate asset, because this place is paid off. I need to have it start making money for me, either in a fixing it up and renting it out, or just borrowing against it and buying a rental property, or buying against it and buying something to flip. You know, but it's here, it's paid for, and I don't want it to do nothing. So let me see. I want to lock this down.
Don't do the financial equivalent of what an otherwise really smart friend of mine did. He is a top senior cybersecurity architect.
Okay.
Maybe 60. He came out to Japan, and I worked with him, and I don't know when, but he bought Tesla stock early in the day. And so on top of all these other things he's put in, time value of money, he's worked at top companies. The Tesla stock, you know, was, I guess, I'm guessing like $2-3 million extra little bonus nest egg, which is, you know, not bad, right?
That sounds really nice.
And I said, well, great. On top of the things he already has, like he has a house back in the States and a second one or whatever. But then he does something, and remember, this person is intelligent. He's incredibly capable.
Okay.
So I said, the decision he made. So it's like having something that's paid for. Or you know, in a sense, well, he has this stock that he.
This sounds like if it's not broke, don't fix it, and he tried to fix something.
Kind of
financially,
because they will offer to it. They say, whether it's Charles Schwab or something, they'll say, would you like to make a lot more as you've already had? How can I do that? We'll lend you money. So it's leveraging. Oh, don't worry about it, sir. It's only 4% interest, and you already have this as your deposit, and so you can put this in, and now you can make, I don't know how much, because I would never do it, but then suddenly it's, when it goes up, instead of you're now making 10 times or 50 times more, great, it can only get better. It's like a Howard Jones song, right? That's called, so you're basically buying on margin trading. We're not shorting. You're saying, hey, I've been fortunate, blessed, and lucky, or smart, or all of the above, and so my Tesla stock is. Well, then I realized something, because I don't pay attention to market as I should. I realized if you looked at January of last year, Tesla stock was at $400 roughly.
Well, versus
what? Well,
like,
right
what is
now,
it? What would it normally be?
Well, yeah, good. You're like me. I can look it up in 2 seconds. Oh my God. When I was telling this story earlier, I said 150, but it's actually, I look at it right now, it's $113
from 400.
So from 400.
Yeah.
So if you do that, what you get is a margin call. Okay.
I saw that.
They
movie.
call you and you say you need to fill in. Suddenly it went down, and you borrowed to buy that stock. Now and it can bankrupt people. And the solution, somebody said on one thing, this guy had said, oh my God, not my friend, but he explained he had a margin call, and it was like $1 million or something that he didn't have. Are there any solutions? And someone characterizes this. It's like this feller made a bad decision, got greedy, really greedy. And now he's in the air without a parachute.
Yeah.
And he's going,
well, we call it being up shit creek without a paddle.
Can anyone help me get back into the airplane? No. And that was that was you just, and you're going, oh, I would never do that. I'll say, well, you could do a similar thing. They may offer you cert, look, it's all paid in. We can give you this kind of equity loan, and you're going, yeah, and then you're using essentially the kind of fronted money.
Mm-hmm.
There are similar bad decisions one could do in real estate, so you just don't want to.
Oh yeah, no, I don't want to do that. The thing is, with real estate, people always need a place to live. My biggest concern would be, being a good judge of character. If it's going to be like rented, like my biggest fear would be renting it out to somebody that I think is going to be a decent tenant, but all they are is a place for the cops to go every night. You know what I mean? And, like if I was renting this place out and I ended up renting it out to the wrong people, I would feel like absolute total crap because I like my neighbors. I don't want to do that to them. You know what I mean? That would be terrible. That would be a bad human.
I think landlords, when they're doing this, it's not, you think, oh, it depends. It's dependent on being a good judge of character. No, you could find the most awesome tenant, but look, you could find the most awesome tenant, responsible and everything else. But you know what? The kid is a piece of, or you have these things you can't control for that. It's not just this one thing of say good tenant, not going to have a problem. So it's often seated in your agreements. It's a process of structuring your lease agreements, how you're going to do it. So the methods of recourse, so that you don't. It's not dependent upon making that one right decision that you think will guarantee a smooth sailing experience going forward.
Right.
Those landlords, even one property or two, they will have good agreements that will cover a lot of different cases.
Well, and I would be sending something like that to an attorney just to make sure that, like, here's my boilerplate, and how can I make this even more, so like ironclad or understandable or favorable to everybody, not just me, because I want to take anybody for a ride. I just I want some passive income, and I don't want to hassle.
You also want to, on that note, somebody who actually understands the business, because you as a landlord, then there are those responsibilities for those kind of maintenance and repairs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh, sure. And that's the thing. Like, if it was this house, I would know exactly what, because I've been here for so long, if there's an issue with this place.
But you know that as the owner, and it's and you behave differently as an owner, and I'm not even assuming a malicious tenant, but you behave differently as a tenant,
Yeah, sure.
Because it's not my problem, kind of.
Sure. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. We had the garage door was, because this house here I used to rent before I bought it. Mm-hmm. And when I got in here to rent, it was actually done on a handshake. And that never happened anymore.
I forgot. You're in Ohio.
When we bought it, that was an article of agreement. So they were actually the bank. And it was very, very overly reasonable. Of course, whenever you have that thought, whenever the place that you're going to go poop goes to shit, you're like, they probably knew this was going to happen, because we'd only owned it for like 2. It's an old house. It's an old Cape Cod. The whole neighborhood it's called a coal patch, which means everybody that lived in this neighborhood worked for the coal company.
I'm going to put something in your private chat, and it's a guy I've never met, and I'll tell you, he's
that's a good start.
He is
All my subtle attempts at humor don't do anything.
He's an old guy. No, he's like class of 70 something West Point. You know.
Oh,
His
okay.
name is John T. Reed.
Okay.
And I think a long time ago, maybe in the 2000s or something, there are these huckster, real estate guru self-promoters still around. And
You
he
mean
really got
like
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah,
you know?
I've read that book.
And
Rich
you
Dad,
know,
Poor Dad.
oh God, again, it's funny because people say, "Oh, well, his stuff was useful." I was like, "Yeah, actually, it's not. It's." And I couldn't. I got it when.
Most of it is
I mean, he was
philosophy and the way that
promoting.
you think
He was
about money.
promoting pyramid scams and everything else. People said no, and actually, he made up a lot of. He made up this whole backstory. You know.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. So John T. Reed, maybe he has a letter. He's pretty. You would not like him, I think. I don't think I would. He's just so dry and humorless. But
Mhm.
you know what? He had that power of just being a smart guy. Hold on,
Okay.
I'm gonna.
So he was persuasive.
Yeah, let me find out where was it? Maybe he you go to his johntreed.com site, and he has articles on military baseball coaching, football coaching. Maybe it was real estate investment, and this is like 20 years ago. And he was, and maybe it's no longer there. I'm just trying to find where it might be. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'll go like this. Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, and these emails are like 20 years old, and his criticism of Kiyosaki and everything else.
I'm going to put this in my what's called stickies. There, but yeah, there we go. That way, I won't lose it.
Okay, so I'll put the. This is the Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know which order it is. Used to be
I mean, I read that book a long time ago, and it was a friend, recommended it. He was doing some real estate stuff, and his thing was he was, I wouldn't say all about, but his plan was to do part to rent out to Section 8 tenant.
Okay.
Basically,
No.
Well, yeah, it would have been, basically it would have been that, his thing being, well, at least half the rent is guaranteed. And I'm like, well, what's your mortgage? Because you don't own the house yet. It's still, if the money that you're getting from the government is the only part that you're getting.
Actually,
because your tenant's being a deadbeat, then you're running at the angle of repose. You're not making any money. You're just making enough to pay for the house. Where's your profit? Can't get rid of the tenant if they don't pay their part of the mortgage. The government's paying half of it. You know what I mean? It's like that was the thing. I was like, I don't think that's a good idea.
No, other thing about property and everything, upkeep and maintenance costs, and they could come and kick you in the butt, or you could also have malicious landlords. I knew a guy, almost went into a company with him, and there's something about his family that I realized it probably was a kind of a value or trait that ran in his family, because when I looked it up, I found out that his uncles, including his father, had been they had been, I don't know if they were fined. They were fined by the government because they were Section 8 landlords. But when you look at the story, they were very abusive. They would either strategically refuse to repair like things like in the middle of the HVAC and air conditioning stuff, and
Yeah, see,
and
that sounds
and
that sounds like
they
everybody's
were
worst
screwing with them,
nightmare.
and it was like out of a John Grisham novel, just these, wow, just
What was that
terrible
Joe
sounding people.
Pesci movie, The Super,
Yeah.
where
Oh,
the
yeah.
judge sentenced him to live in one of his own properties?
Mhm. Yeah.
I thought that was funny. That
And
was
then
actually a good movie.
then you Google them, and then you see they're getting in their group, they're getting all these awards for community service, and I go, wow, that's just complete opposite, but yeah, and look, do you want to just, if you can look at a lot of the both the gurus, the advice articles,
Yeah.
and the analysis of 2 years ago, where people were going, this is how I'm successfully managing a portfolio of Airbnb. And they've expanded, they've leveraged it, right? They started at one place. Look at what's happening right now. A few months ago, I mean, especially if your empire that can't fail is leveraged, it's on borrowed money. There's that implosion,
Yeah.
And but those people were selling this dream. This is the key to success. Nope. So anything that's actually going to, normally you're not thinking of, I'm not borrowing. Well, if you're doing an equity loan or whatever, that's a form of leverage. So almost sound like a Luddite, or one of the, what are some of the places where, well, technically Sharia law says no interest, but where they go, oh, we'll never borrow, whatever. It sounds terrible, but you're going, yeah, keeps you in a safe place. Yeah.
There's one online. I'm sure you've seen him before. Ryan Long. He does really good stuff about. Well, the one that he's doing is how to get rich by telling people how to get rich. He's a comedian.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh,
so he's
like
basically doing
like Mark Manson. Mark Manson, was it Mark Manson? Yeah, The Art of Not Giving an F. Similar. No,
Mark Maron.
Yeah, Maron. Okay.
Mark Maron. Yeah, I saw that one. Orange is the New Black Congresswoman somewhere reading that book, and it was like that's the meme of the year. People are saying.
Oh.
It's a congresswoman, she's basically reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Maron while everybody's trying to figure out whether or not Kevin McCarthy is going to be Speaker of the House. And that's the book she's reading. And she's wearing a dress that's the same color of the book.
So I just saw a photo. I don't know the drama. So he finally is a Speaker after 15 tries.
I don't think he's Speaker yet. I don't think he's Speaker yet, but I think what's happened, and I haven't kept up with it today. I think today was the 7th or 8th try.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anybody else in chat, or at least there's. I think there might be one person in there, and that one person may know whether or not. I think the only person I believe that is holding it up right now is Matt Gaetz. Yeah, Gaetz. Which I'm totally fine with that. Yeah, I'm very down with the idea where they're like, the less government does, the better, anyways. Let them sit there and twist in the wind and try to figure this thing out.
He is a 55th speaker. He is. He's elected.
Oh, he did. He got elected.
Yeah.
Man, these guys are assholes. They have no staying power whatsoever. Lauren Boebert, everybody caved except for one guy, right? Okay, whatever. I mean, like this is the guy. He's wearing a Ukraine pin. He's got his Ukraine pocket square. Does that then? That doesn't tell you anything. Whatever. This is just. Like the whole thing is going down in flames, and it's probably just start popping the popcorn. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to sound defeatist or anything like that, but seriously, it's like once you realize that pro wrestling is fake, you know what I mean? And that's what it is. They're just they figured out how to take your money. They know you're not going to do anything about it. If you do, they'll put you in jail. You know, nobody's going to actually dust off their Second Amendment and do anything about it. You know, they're not.
So this was January 7th. Oh, funny.
Yeah, the day after the most violent day in American history.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to be sarcastic or whatever, but
no, go ahead. Yeah,
I really think if, I don't know, people who, including YouTube, they're saying, oh, this is like an act of insurrection and everything. And it included, actually, I don't know how old the boy was. Maybe he was 13, or called law enforcement, I'm assuming either the police or FBI, and informed them that his father was attending on that day, which led to his arrest. I don't know did you hear about that?
I did not hear about that, and I probably would not continue. I would disown that kid.
Oh, no,
like,
no.
Seriously,
well, let me give you a story, because it's a story that was actually very important to a certain group of people. And so we go back to 1980? I can't do math. What's 32 minus? 19. There was a boy born in 1918, so that's Spanish flu, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was born in the Soviet Union. And
so that's
in 1932, he was 13 years old. And his name is Pavlik Morozov. And 13-year-old Pavlik informed on the authorities that his father was doing something untoward. So they arrested his father, a protest. I think they ended up executing his father. And so, of course, the relatives then killed the 13-year-old boy. Like, you little...
Yeah.
Now,
this aggression cannot
Pavlik
stand,
Morozov
man.
is a hero of the Soviet Union. And, for example, 1948, they have a stamp. You know, the stamp shows a statue of Pavlik. You know, this is what you do. You know, hey,
I do. You know, this
your parents.
is actually starting to come back to me
you own
now.
your children. You think your children are your children because of you? No, you didn't. You didn't make those children. The states did. With
You
our
didn't
school.
build. You didn't build that business.
And so, don't be so arrogant to think that you own your children. And this is Pavlik. I mean, the Chinese had their little kind of
Chinese did the same thing. You report on your parents.
Pavlik Morozov, he was, and this reminded me of, you know, are they going to honor this kid? Get him over to the White House and say, you did right, you know. This is a message to all the parents.
And other kids should be just like this.
They're terrorizing, because we're right, Merrill, put you on the list. They're terrorizing the school boards.
Hey, I don't know about you, but the entire time I was going to school, the entire time I was going to school, I was being told that I was an American and I was free. So if you're basically telling me now that that's all wrong, then that's your fault for lying to me in the first place.
Well, it won't matter when your kids are turning you in, you know. Tell it to the hand.
We had a talk with our kids one time at the dinner table that had more to do with you know, like when you have to explain to your kids what the upside of discipline is, you know, and you know, like, okay, I understand you might not like it, okay, but it is part of our job. And here's the other thing. You might think that you're smart enough and that you're going to want to, like, you know, you got a spanking because you deserved one. And two, I always explain it to my kids this way. I only know 2 languages, English and pain. So, you know, you listen to me when I'm using the one language and I won't have to use the other language. But I mean, every kid goes through that stage where they're, you know, they're just, they need to be, you know, reminded exactly who's buttering the bread and, you know, whose house it is. Like I love my kids. But and one of the reasons why you know, when they go through that stage, you actually have to deal with it as much as you don't want to. Is if you don't discipline them now, someone bigger than them or the cops is going to do it. You know what I mean? Either you help them figure out exactly how to control themselves, or they'll be out of control and in jail, or getting their ass kicked on a daily basis. You did not help them become not an asshole, so you just released an asshole on the rest of the world, for the rest of the world to deal with. And now, you know, your kid is growing up confused and angry because, you know, you didn't explain to them the concept of who the boss is. And someday it'll be you, and this is how you act when you're the boss. You know, you know what I'm talking about. If you've got kids, I mean, this is all like really simple stuff. But the one thing that we did try to, you know, like a lot of people don't think about this, because, you know, kids would call like CYS on their parents. You know, I didn't get an iPad for Christmas. I'm going to call the state and tell them that you're you know, abusing me. Like, all right, fine. That means you're not in this house anymore. That means you're not in your own room anymore. That means you're not getting pizza on Friday. You know what I mean? All that stuff. If that's, you know, helping your kids think ahead about consequences to their actions.
You know, it's funny because I was on Andrew's Legal Mindset channel, one of the first kind of non-drinking stream things I did.
One of the first non-ones.
No, it was the first one. You asked me what I did before, but it wasn't my job. I'm not a lawyer, but I was. I'm a friend of Mr. and Mrs. Greg Kelly. He was the former representative director of Nissan, and he was.
I have one of those.
He was detained and arrested without charges in November 2018. Separately, Carlos Ghosn, Nissan, and he spent 3 years in Japan as a prisoner of the Japanese.
Why?
The government, you know, here you can be detained without any charges for up to 22 days, and that can be renewed. They eventually charged him and claimed that he had what was it? The actual charge, I have to go back and check forms of fraud. And
this sounds
in a nutshell, though, he was largely acquitted of them, but it took 3 years, and he had to remain here in Japan. So it was a lot of bullshit. I can give you a quick link to it if you want. Anyways, he's from Tennessee, and he's born in Illinois.
He's from Tennessee, and he had to go to jail in Japan for 3 years.
He was 62 or 3, and he was actually. So what happened was, he was a representative director for Nissan, and he was scheduled to have on December 7th, 2018, surgery for cervical spinal stenosis. Do you know what that is? Do you ever hear of that?
I've heard the word before, but I don't.
You never have to deal with it, because spinal stenosis is when you have in the vertebra it's like a bone spur that's growing inward into the spinal cord. Yeah, and so you need surgery to remove that. It could be in your lumbar, then it would be lumbar spinal stenosis, or it could be in this case cervical is your neck. So he was scheduled for surgery in the United States on December 7th, 2018. In the interview with Andrew, it just was a brain fart. I goes, oh, by the way, did you realize that was the surgery he never made, by the way? I said, that was the 77th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, he was told that you have to come to a board meeting. They wanted to get rid of Carlos Ghosn, and all these conspirators thought, well, Mr. Kelly is somebody who's lived his life always beyond reproach. He's always lived, he's always been doing the
model.
right thing.
Yeah, he's a model citizen.
He's a good guy. He's just solid. You know, he married. He met his high school sweetheart Dee, and they both were students at St. Augustine, which is a college on Rock Island in Illinois. That's where also the U.S. Army Depot is. That's why I know it too. And that was he was a lawyer. He joined Nissan in the late 80s. HR went up to the ranks. He's board of directors, and then at the time he was representative director. Always done, you know, good work. And so he's not somebody that you say, yeah, maybe we can convince him he can let this slide by, because he's not somebody like that, you know.
He's in the way. He doesn't. He's not venal.
Want to do some political moves and stuff like that. Nah,
Yeah.
He's not It's not like he's an asshole.
He's not venal.
You know, he doesn't. He lives his life. He's devout and everything else. So, anyways, this guy, he was actually a foreigner, but he's a real quisling. He assured him, no, he lied, and he said, you have to come physically for this board meeting in Japan. And Mr. Kelly said, look, I have this surgery, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, untreated, that thing can cripple you.
Sure. You'll be paralyzed.
So the guy lied. He goes, you'll be back home in Tennessee for Thanksgiving, right? And he even arranged for a plane. I think it might have been a private plane, you know, to pick him up. And he landed at Haneda Airport. I think it was Haneda. Or Gon was at Haneda, one of the two. I have to double check. They put the two gentlemen at different airports, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he gets in...
Wait, when was this?
November 18th, 2018.
I think I remember hearing about this on Glenn Beck.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, wow. So he, in Mr. Kelly's case, the van driver, you know, goes, oh, I have to make a call my wife. What? The prosecutor come in. No, we're going to ask you questions. He goes, okay, we can talk in my hotel room. No. And they put him into CAE, which is a jail and a prison. They held him there for over 37 days. 53, 56 times he asked to see a lawyer, denied. You know, they were trying to break him. He was maybe in solitary for 30. How many days was that? Anyways.
Okay, but this is the Nissan car company that did this?
Yeah, Nissan. Yeah. And
holy shit, I got to get rid of my lease.
Mr. Kelly then, he was allowed to make bail. It was 70 million yen, so you know, $700,000. And it was on Christmas Day. And at that moment, you know, I mean, there have been notorious cases of malingering by Japanese politicians accused of crimes. You know, or look at Harvey Weinstein going, I can't walk. But in this case, he went right to the hospital in Tsukuba for that much-needed surgery. You know, this was not, he wasn't BSing. And then it took a long, so all these things were happening. And eventually, you know, the trial was September of 21, you know. Maybe there should be a good article. I think the person who's probably written the best on Greg Kelly case is Roger, what's his, Asia Times. Roger Scheffler. Roger Scheffler is a longtime veteran here in Japan. He was a freelance automotive sector editor. I knew him, and I didn't know he was such a good writer. But I will figure this one out in a second. Anyway, it was a really creepy case, and it was
it sounds like
a lot more. I will okay, Asia Times. So it would be like site asiatimes.com. Yeah. we had a couple things were happening at the time of his arrest and detention. The United States ambassador to Japan was nominated by Trump, Bill Hagerty, William F. Hagerty IV from Tennessee. Actually, so then in July of 2020, the president wanted then Ambassador Hagerty to run for a seat as a senator in Tennessee. So he had to do that. And it was, hold on, I'm just, sorry, I'm so,
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm just doing this at the same time. I've got all the lettering figured out. Basically,
good.
I'm getting a little sloppy at this one
so,
part, or at least I'm
Hagerty
not
is
using it.
Uh-huh.
I'm using a different method of getting this this letter or this part of the flag figured out. But I'm listening.
So Bill Hagerty is he won the party nomination. What was it? So the election for the Senate race was the same day as the federal for the presidential election in 2020. So he's on the Foreign Relations Committee and everything else. Still, it was hard to kind of get. There was no. What was that Grindler case? That woman who was caught with marijuana in Russia. Brittany Griner. Yeah, there was no Brittany Griner. I mean, this is why we see
there
Brittany
isn't really
case,
Brittany Griner is a guy. I believe, anyways. Maybe I'll get my channel struck for saying that, but that's what I think.
Yeah. So under the Biden administration, like it was really difficult to get anything out. I mean, I knew of one case where they're talking
because he's a pushover,
assistant to the Undersecretary of State, and they were explaining that the conditions in Mr. Kelly were, and it was solitary confinement, and the woman interrupted and said, "Excuse me, we don't use that word around here."
Really?
Like, yeah.
Well, what do you call being alone all the time in a confined place, if not solitary confinement?
It was not. Oh, you know what? I have on my channel. I do one of my channels. Hold on. Let me find it. It's in YouTube. You can put it out there on YouTube. Before the end of the trial, okay. There's a interview that a fireside chat that Mrs. Kelly did with Jamie. Damn it. He's the head of Fried Frank's global litigation. So I'm just going to look at YouTube and see which channel I have. I should have done this before because I kind of put out a video, a short, my first and only one, on my Maxmura.
Your first and only short?
Yeah. Did you see? I didn't make it though because I'm
because you're what? Or you're because you are something or you're not something?
My son made it. You know the rabbit,
okay.
and it's to the tune of Jefferson Airplane's classic White Rabbit. You know.
I know that. Yeah, that's like it's like the White Rabbit.
Well, Jamie Wareham, yeah, he's a great lawyer. Okay, so Jamie Wareham, I'll put it in if you want. You can give him the I'll put it in.
I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can play it if it's got music in it.
No, don't play it. Don't play it. It's fine. But this is the one. It is. I just put it into the chat. It's called. It was done. A fireside chat with D. Kelly, and it was on November 2021. And it's long, but watch it and you can see it. And what did I put in my? Oh, okay. I don't really have. It doesn't show a really good timeline, but there's a playlist I have on my site which shows like things that happened and when he came back down, and I even threw in a Johnny Cash thing. But you can look out, sir.
You're talking about. So was your son likes to mess with video?
I guess a little bit, yeah. He made that, I think, on his Instagram or something like that.
Okay.
And
yeah, there's so many things I need to learn. I need to get better at.
It's where did I? Oh my God! I think I lost a. Oh, okay, that's funny. Greg Kelly, legal mindset. Legal mindset. Yeah, I've seen. Have you? Do you watch? Do you watch Andrew sometimes, or
which one is he? Legal Vices, or is he DUI guy, or?
No. Andrew is
Bronco?
Andrew Esquire, who is Legal Vice's friend, younger friend. Okay.
Okay.
So he's Jeff's younger friend, and he has a channel called Legal Mindset. I
think that's Andrew Bronca, isn't it?
No, Andrew Bronca is
that's self-defense.
A bit older. He had self-defense man.
Okay.
Anyways, this is
I'll say that yes, but I don't have a consistent watch schedule for a lot of this stuff.
I also think, and you don't do the Ricky or Nick Rekieta.
Nick Rekieta, I've watched his a couple of times.
Yeah.
There's I'll do this thing, and I don't know what it says about me as a person or whatever my personality trait is here, but if I put in a super chat and I can get, somebody that I think is pretty smart to laugh, I'll record it and keep it for later.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, just as an example, I only have one of these, and it's where is this?
ID Crisis. Nailed it. There you go.
Something like that. Yeah. And basically he was talking about he was talking about if the amount of respect that he'll lose for society if his kids are ever thought of as being I know I'm getting this wrong, but the super chat said it had something to do with it's the amount of faith that you lose in society whenever you realize that your kids were able to succeed in it. Just because what they have to deal with now, it's so easy to get a job now versus you actually had to know how to do something. I was at a I know I'm totally butchering the concept. It's not as
okay.
harsh
No,
as
I get it. I was thinking too much of my own situation and puzzled. But
mine
now
too. My daughter loves to my oldest daughter loves to work. She gets a lot of enjoyment out of just being in the workplace. What she does, I'm not really sure. The best way that I can explain it is she works for a marketing company that deals exclusively with independent health insurance agents. So instead of you taking as a independent health insurance agent, and instead of you taking the time to market yourself, they do that so you can just concentrate on doing your job. And I could be, I might be simplifying things, but that's what she does. She was smart enough to not go to college, even though she insisted on going to college, and I tried to talk her out of it. My son, he graduated from WVU not too long ago with a bachelor's in music composition, so he'll be doing something with that, I'm sure. But yeah, I've never had a problem with my kids working and wanting to make money or anything like that. I have heard horror stories. So one buddy of mine, his nephew works at a railroad, and he's like, we just can't find good people. We can't find good people to work. I'm like, well, how does that go? I mean, it's like, he's like, they work for 4 months, and I guess this is what the scam is. They work for 4 months, and then are so bad at the job that they're forced to be fired so that they can go and then get unemployment. That you only work at the job long enough to where you can apply for unemployment. You suck at the job, and then they fire you because you can't get unemployment if you quit. You can only get unemployment if you get fired. And I think it also depends on what you get fired for, but yeah, that's one of the things that needs. Like, you want to know why we can't find anybody to do any decent work around here is because of that loophole. Out loud. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm not in close enough. But we are getting close to cutability here. And all this is like these Bezier curves are for so that the vinyl cutter knows where to move the knife. And everywhere that you see one of these paths, it will cut through. It will cut vinyl, and then you weed the vinyl, and then you put backing tape on it, and then you slap it on your car. And I was wondering about this. I'm like, do they even let you do stuff like this in Japan? Like, are there rules out on the road, like kind of like weird? Like here we have stuff with like tinted windows. They can't be super dark.
Okay, yeah. So the modifications, what they have is a car. They have a car inspection system, and during the mid-90s, during the these automotive talks on whatever, the Americans were saying, this car inspection system is unfairly is a form of as a market barrier for also for American non-OEM auto
American manufacturers,
right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it was really weird. A lot of energy put to really help the Japanese consumer more than anything else, because the way that the inspection system is run in Japan is it makes it very expensive, and it highly it encourages you to get a new car, because each year as your car gets older, it gets more expensive. But what was also going on?
Well, are they just automatically figuring that because the car is old, the emissions are, or the?
Oh no, they have the emissions and everything, but they'll require you. I can't remember, but every couple of whatever you have to go for the car inspection and have that sticker. They'll run the emissions test. But here's the thing. One is the garages that are authorized to do. First of all, they'd love for you to just stick with the dealers, right? And the dealers will really screw you.
No, I know. Yeah,
but if the garage does it, fine. You go to a garage. If a garage submits a car that for any reason gets rejected 3 times, the garage loses its license in those days. So
this is one of those. This has got to be one of those pieces of legislation that doesn't take into account human nature, isn't it?
So what that meant was no garage who wants to stay in business would ever use a non-OEM part, not a windshield wiper. Not you when you submit your customer's car for inspection, because you don't want. It's like a YouTube strike. You do not want to F around with a non-OEM part. That was argument back in the 90s. It's loosened up a bit, but still, there's another thing that was consistent with the car inspection. So they wanted to know both emissions, but also spec. So there was a very slight tolerance. Any modification to the body, the chassis, that would create a deviance of, I don't know, a few millimeters, that was out.
What do you mean,
So,
like a few millimeters?
okay,
What,
say
from
you
the
mod up your
ground,
car
or-
with a mod up your car. I don't know. That could be on an exterior basis. So what these guys would do they would have these cars, and then they would return them back to stock or whatever,
Yeah.
so they could pass the, which is
right, pass inspection.
yeah, and then put it back on again. But some things you can't put on. You can't take off.
Yeah, like you can't take you can a spoiler you can put on and take off again, and
Mhm.
yeah, I know.
And-
It's that's the thing. It's one of the things about legislation that just really chaps my ass. At
So
no
this
point,
was regulatory capture. This was benefiting Toyota Motor Corporation and Nissan, because of all the things, the regulatory, it was to favor those companies so that the consumer base would be encouraged to buy a new car
yeah, but doesn't the
and
government
buy another one.
doesn't the government get a kickback from that?
Yeah, that's what you call it. This is regulatory capture, conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So you don't get legislation that really benefits the citizen or individual.
Yeah, I know. That's. I mean, I don't know if you have this around where you are, but we have these. In the summertime, people will just bring out their classic cars,
Mhm.
and license plates go by state.
Oh.
And every state has, and I don't know what the requirements are for every single one of them, but you can get it's a classic PA car license plate. And I believe the reason why you have that is so that you can get a break on the emissions, so that you can get a sort of a break, because you're talking about a car from the 1970s, from the 1930s in some cases. It's a restored
Yeah, sure. If you
Model
hold
A.
it to the what did they have it for the new cars back in the 70s or 80s? CAF, fuel emission standard.
Yeah.
That's,
Cafe.
yeah. It doesn't make any.
I'll tell you what, those cars are a lot easier to work on. No computers. I mean, a lot of stuff is so mechanical. Rotors, points, all that stuff. But at least there's room to work. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to drop the engine in order to change the spark plugs.
Oh yeah, that was funny. We had these Toyota. They don't make them in the States. It's not a Camry. Someone said it's a Camry. It was a Toyota. We had these Toyota Mark IIs, and so the rear wheel drive. And if you did a kit, I had a buddy had to take it out before inspection. You could up the horsepower to maybe 360 or something like that, and it was fun. And what was the thing about the Mark IIs?
Now that's a model that's exclusive to Japan.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to explain it. There might be a matching one, because somebody was saying, I was explaining, it's not a Camry and it's not a Lexus. It's the equivalence of.
Well, Acura is Honda's sport model. Lexus is Toyota's luxury model. Line, I guess I would say. I don't know what. I think Scion is Toyota's. It's their line for specifically for modifying. At least that's what it is in the States. There's a lot of things that you can do to a Scion.
Oh, okay, that kind of boxy sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I mean, I don't mean like modify
it?
for like racing or anything like that. I mean, it's just.
Oh, they killed it a couple years ago. Okay, so
Did
they
they?
killed it. Yeah, and like 6 years ago or something. I think they killed it because they I don't know why, but
yeah, the Scion, it wasn't there like a cube, and there's like the one whole back would have been like over the right shoulder was all glass. Hey, what side of the road do you guys drive on?
on the left-hand side of the road.
You're on the left hand. Your steering wheel's on the right side of the car.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We must be
You know,
the only place.
just
We
like
must be the only place in the world that does it the other
Britain,
way.
Australia, New Zealand, maybe South Africa, I don't know. Those British Commonwealth countries will drive on the left-hand side of the road.
Yeah.
Now, here's a funny thing. So I grew up in the U.S. and I grew up in Canada, and my first car was automatic. But you know, I had a dad's friend. My dad's friend kind of said, "Hey, look, I'm friends with your dad, but I totally disagree with him. My dad's a total socialist and everything else that was terrible." He goes, "You're 16, you have your car. A couple things like." You're good. If you bring your car, none of the guys are going to change oil. You got to learn how to do it yourself. So you learn how to change your own oil. But here's the next thing: driving a stick shift. You know,
manual. I like driving a manual more than I like driving an automatic. Yeah. There's a lot more control.
And the first time you do a stick shift, you're gonna, kill it, and it's gonna. So, but then once you do it, it's just like in your head. You don't think about it. Guess what happened? Several years ago, I was working on this restructuring, and I fly into Heathrow into London, and I rent a car. I didn't think about it, but in those days, I don't know now. Unless you specify, they will give you a stick shift, right?
Yeah,
as a Nissan, and I didn't think about it. I just
you had learned at the time, though, right? You had already known.
There's a problem. It's even though I was in Japan, I've never driven stick shift in Japan. Like, so it's my left hand. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Do we always do things as equally well with our left hand, right? So,
right.
At the beginning, I'm driving from Heathrow Airport and over Newbury, and I'm just herky-jerky, it's like, but by the end of it, the assignment was long. I was in my head. It's just like muscle memory, everything. So left hand, right hand, bang, bang, tap, tap, tap,
Yeah, I mean, that's like my daughter's, she's been driving. She's on her permit. Mm-hmm. And she's been driving. My wife has a Honda Accord. Mm-hmm. She's been driving that car. She wants to drive my truck. Like, okay, I get it. But I'll take her to a parking lot first, not because she needs to learn how to drive a truck the same way that she needs to learn how to drive a car. Mm-hmm. She just needs to get used to the truck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we'll go to a parking lot and you can, get used to the car, but I'm not going to make her, spend hours and hours and hours in a parking lot the same way. Like she already knows how to drive. She just has to get used to what this is all.
So you go, is it manual or it's
no, it's not. Well, it's not, but it does. You do have the option once you're in drive.
L1.
You can slap it over and go down from.
So you should also.
There's like 9 different gears in this thing.
But so you should actually get, especially with manual, just understand how to go safely.
Well, no, it's not. It doesn't even have a clutch. It's a computer controlled automatic thing.
Like up and down a because some people don't, they're stopped on the slope and then they gotta I'm going backwards,
you have to catch it.
But
that's
if
all
somebody a newbie panics and then they just crash into the car behind them or something. But
I had that happen to me once. I'm in a minivan, okay, and there's this one part of the road where it goes up and the guy's at a light, and his car just starts coming back and coming back and coming back, and I'm just watching it happen. Like there's nothing that I can do. Oh, Susie fell asleep. Okay, sorry. There was one in here. I don't know how long ago that was because now there's nobody in here. But that was at 4:30, 4:31. Anyways, well, maybe she isn't here. I don't know. Anyway, so my point being, so this guy, he backs into my car, doesn't even know that it was his foot that wasn't on the clutch. He backs into the car and then, he gets out and we're talking, he goes, you hit me. I go, wait, what? Go, you know that you just rolled into you just rolled into this into the back of my into the front of my car. I did. I go, yeah, it was. You know, I've been. Oh yeah, she is in here. It's showing zero people in here, but she's in here.
Hey, did
Yeah,
you
start and stop on an incline. That's the hard part. It is. It's like you have to catch it. What did I just do?
There are some people who do this on purpose, you know. But if you have a dash cam,
yeah, no, that wasn't this, and
but
I didn't really care about that van, anyways.
Yeah, but it's so what happened was a couple years later, after I learned to drive stick shift on the left hand side of the road. I have a friend. He's back in England. He's an older guy named Peter Nunn, and he's also an automotive journalist. So he wanted to do a photo shoot because I've helped him out a couple times, and he has access to all the cars. So he goes, "Hey, we have a photographer named, remember the guy's name, Tony. It was for I think it was for Car and Driver Australia or something like that. So what we needed to do was to get 2 cars, and so he got one from Subaru, the World Rally car. He said it was a bit more quirky, and then he got for me the Mitsubishi Evo 10, and said, okay. I didn't tell him. I got into the Evo 10, which is manual, and I was so glad. I know for a fact that if I hadn't that British experience, I would have been looking like a hell of a fool stalling the car.
Yeah.
Because I knew. And so it was just like, and Peter didn't even think about it, because the weird way we met was we're in the same neighborhood, and this was years ago, and he's polishing an RX-7. And I say, nice car.
Those are nice.
And he's a white, he's a British guy, older, kind of cranky, and we're talking. And I told him I used to work for Toyota. And he said,
what capacity?
Well, it was actually a 3rd-tier Toyota company, but it was the guy I worked for was the chief engineer of the Lexus Coupe, Okada. So Okada was sent out in, I don't know, 60s, 70s. He was sent out to study under Strother McCann. He did come off, he's still alive, I gotta be careful. He still came off as a dilettante, but I didn't realize, but he was, I didn't know until 2 years ago or something. There was this kind of real character of a guy that worked in government named, they made movies about him, Shirasu Jiro. He worked for Prime Minister Yoshida. And that was his mentor. And it was Shirasu Jiro who said, you know what you should get? A Porsche 911. Because when I met O'Connor, this is my the old guy, he just retired from
the Porsche 911 whale tail.
He drove a 911 at Toyota. And he was a first experience with a Porsche. I go, wow, this is like a hard ride. It's like sleeping on, it's like riding on a bed of plywood. My ass is sore. But he was even asked by the head, those owners of Toyota, hey, you work for Toyota. Why do you drive a Porsche? And he got away with it. He goes, well, you pay me to make the best sports car, and in my opinion, it is the Porsche. It's 911. None of the Tiptronic.
You sound like George Takei just now.
Oh, George Takei, that would be a gay version of my dad. I hate George Takei. You know what George Takei? You know what he did? This is the propaganda he did. He starts picking a fight. He actually picked a fight purposely because he was a third-rate player. So he created this. It's like a Meghan Merkel or Amber Heard, and he picked him with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what the product was. This is funny. They put out this very Japanese way, the Pravda. So you'll have kids repeating this piece of BS that you and I don't care about. They go, well, do you know that William Shatner was not the first captain? It was Christopher Pike.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that piece of trivia, nobody cares. But what Takei was able to do by picking a fight, kids today believe that the Star Trek, the main characters included Sulu. He didn't. I said the 3 characters were Captain Kirk,
Dr. McCoy, Mr.
Spock, and McCoy. And and even listed on production. These were, I don't know what they were, but he I have kids who will ask, are you sure? Because I said, yes. And this is where you've been brain. Well, he's successfully brain. He's made it look like his argument is,
his argument is flawed, his argument is flawed in a fundamental way, and I'll tell you 30 how.
seconds out of an episode of.
Well, I'll tell you how exactly and why it is that argument is flawed, and it can be, and it's a Shakespearean argument that he's got all wrong. In Romeo and Juliet, Romeo has two friends, Benvolio and Mercutio. Benvolio is I believe it's his cousin, and Mercutio is his friend. Benvolio is a very down-to-earth, logical thinking character. And Mercutio is emotional, happy, partying. Okay? Those two friends represent the two halves of Romeo. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are the same thing. At no point does Sulu fit into that dynamic, because McCoy is the emotional side, Spock is the logical side, and they both represent the two sides of Captain Kirk.
And this was George Takei, also his discussion on how, February is coming up and internment, and I was on. You know what? I know somebody else.
Internment? What do you mean?
This is the internment camp that he was in. I can't remember which he was. I'm not saying I don't know conclusively whether he's bullshitting or lying, but I know at least one person in my family who bullshits, because when you do the math, it's kind of like when Steven Seagal says he served in Vietnam, and was working for the CIA. The person would have been 2 or 3 years old and not even aware of what would be going on if they were, and so they make themselves the victim. It's
Steven Seagal. If he's my age now, then he was born in 1970.
So he doesn't keep the timeline straight. I did talk to somebody who was in the camps, and he passed away. And a friend of mine, American guy, he passed away, and in 2021, and one of the people that he was friends with was late Norman Mineta, who was the former Secretary for Transportation, both under Clinton and Bush. But he's a Democrat.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
This other person related to the deceased said, "Oh, I called him, he wasn't in," and it was kind of weird because this guy lied. You have people who lie. You'll say, "Oh, I'll give him a call, he wasn't in," or "I know the person." So I had to track him down. I called my best friend. He goes, "Hey, he's a chairman of Knowlton Hill," but I found his residence, and I called him and left a message, and then I called again. He picked up, and I didn't expect to talk to them. I didn't know. And he was explaining. He goes, I knew his background too. This is the interesting part. See, he was like 8 or 9 years old when he was in 1942. So his family was ordered to, I can't remember, the internment camp for Japanese Americans in Wyoming. And one of the things they did was kind of like the TSA. He had a baseball bat. He was a Boy Scout, and he had a baseball bat. They took away the baseball bat because it could be dangerous, in 1942. And then, so later he served in the United States Army. At that point, it was initially Korea. I think it was in MI intelligence or something. So he did some time after outside of Tokyo. We have an army base in Sagamihara called Zama. So we're talking, and they would always say he speaks really, really antiquated time Japanese. For example, he doesn't say "ega," which is film or motion picture.
He has an antiquated dialect.
Yeah. He knows it. So he'll say "ega katsudo," which is like moving picture, and he's a really good guy. So he did army. I think he was the first Asian American mayor of a Democrat, though, of a major city. I think it was San Jose or something like that.
Okay.
But then in the 70s, he was he was a congressman, and he was really good to my friend. And at some point, I think when George W. Bush won, he asked his dad, like, who should I get as transportation secretary? And he goes, hey, Norman Mineta. So he served under both a Democratic and Republican president, Yeah. Now, here's the thing. when he was a mayor and maybe when he was a congressman, one of his constituents gifted him a baseball bat that was used by Hank Aaron.
Oh,
But
shit.
under the rules for receiving gifts of more than, I don't know, $250, whatever, he couldn't accept it. So what he said was, God damn it, this is the second time the government's taken away my baseball bat. But later, you know, when it was allowed, they managed to get the baseball bat to him. You know, he liked baseball. Okay, so he's in the internment camp in Wyoming, right? And before people go, oh, that was terrible, oh, whatever. Oh, okay, look, he's a Boy Scout. So you have a visiting troop from outside, you know, in Wyoming. One of the other boys was also 9 years old. His name was Alan Simpson. Alan Simpson is a familiar name because he retired? He became a Republican senator from Wyoming. They're friends. How do they go back? As kids, different Boy Scout troops. That's a good story.
Oh, shit.
And so
I've always found the older you get, the smaller the world becomes. And I can never say that. It does not roll off my tongue the right way.
And from Norm, you don't get all this stuff of, oh, it's terrible and all this. Because here's an I didn't discuss with him, but the decision to do the executive order 9066 to put right at the Pearl Harbor attack, there's an island called Niihau, Niihau. So there was a pilot who crash landed on this isolated island with no radio contact. And what happened was there were these islanders, but they did not know, obviously, that there was an attack on Pearl Harbor, right? So then what happened was there was this is a guy named Nishi Kaiichi. He was in the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service, right? Crash landed the Zero on Niihau Island.
I always loved that they were called Zeros.
Yeah. So
it's so badass.
But now you get an American-born Japanese American named Yoshio Harada. He speaks Japanese.
Yeah.
So the pilot goes, hey, we just frickin' attacked the Americans. We just bombed the hell out of Pearl Harbor. So he decides to lie to all the Hawaiian guys on the island. And Yoshio and his wife overcame the guard. They tried to destroy the plane. I think they shot and stabbed. They didn't kill the other Hawaiians. And then they finally caught the pilot, you know, and they killed the pilot. But the Japanese American, he was not immigrating from Japan. I think he died by suicide or something like that. I can't remember.
Oh yeah. Where did I put this thing? Sorry, I thought I was trying to figure out where I should have. I'm pretty sure I saved it into the design.
So
that's where it's going.
What happened was, now making that, this is a case where an American-born Japanese, an American-born citizen of Japanese descent decided to not just aid the enemy, but, you know, try to kill, you know?
Yeah.
And so this definitely was brought to the attention of Secretary of Navy. That you can't, this is a threat. You have, the fact that you have maybe, I don't know, on the West Coast, 35,000, 20,000 Japanese Americans. That was the order. It made sense. Not like, oh, it was terrible and it was racist and everything. It was a real concern. And when I mentioned the Niihau incident to a Japanese American, the first thing, this is really curious. I know it's a data point at one, but it's one person. He's born in San Francisco, and he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And I just go, no, I do. And when it's clear that I do, he goes, what are you? Some kind of pejorative for Korean or Chinese? Like, why would you bring
Isn't
this
that normally really upsetting?
Wait a minute. You just denied it happened. Now you're admitting to it. And now you're calling me a GOOK or something? Because,
oh, wow. Really? That they went there?
Like, screw you. Yeah.
They went to the G word?
Well, yeah, I know all those words.
No, I mean,
So
I do too,
he's
but still, you don't.
but there, so it's fun. And this is a Japanese American guy, who wants to protect this Pravda. And I said, I don't like this. This is the false. So I could actually argue that the case for internment was justified, and this whole argument, and that's why you almost want to go stop when, especially if it's just normal everyday American going, oh yeah, they almost want to get into this apology mode, and I'm going like, you should hold on for a second, because there's something I've got to tell you that somehow, you were never taught, and it's there. I'm not making this up. This is not a some cuckoo thing.
You ran into somebody's cognitive dissonance,
and
at full speed.
So you have and so by the way, you have the Pravda of the, say, Japanese American Citizens League. They're very democratic. They will only talk about Democrats, politicians. They'll talk about the 442nd, and Senator Inoue, but they'll never talk about a Republican, a conservative Japanese American. They don't exist. And when they do,
well, yeah,
they're shunned. No, there's a guy, and you can look him up. His name is S.I. Hayakawa, and you're going, you don't know. He was born in Canada. Always whispered that, something's wrong. Maybe he's queer. He did something. He's a despicable person. He was an intern during World War II. Well, technically, what happened was he was born in Canada. He wasn't Winnipeg. During maybe I can't remember what the deal was, but he was maybe his wife was Caucasian. But in 1960s, remember the San Francisco State? Not that you remember. S.I. Hayakawa, short little Japanese man, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had a Tamil shelter. He was a professor of English literature. Okay, so he was born in 1906, right? So, anyways, he was just a professor of English. He looked like a little stereotypical Japanese guy with glasses, a little mustache, and he wore a Tamil shelter hat, right? I don't know how tall he was, but he was not tall. So it was in 1968. There was a student strike, and it was technically not the Black Panthers, but it was the Third World Liberation Front. But they had this communist Students for a Democratic Society, and the Black Panthers. They supported it. So it was basically, they're saying they physically take over San Francisco State College, and they go, non-negotiable. We want a Black Studies department, and we want it chaired by Nathan Hare, and we want open admissions for all Black students to put an end to racism, and we want an unconditional, immediate end to the war in Vietnam. And if you don't do this, we're going to shut you down. So the president of that university, who was white, he said, nope. He got the hell out of there. So they put this little Japanese-looking guy named S.I. Hayakawa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he taught English. He had a Tamil shelter, and technically at the time, I think he was even a Democrat. So he should basically just bend over backwards, right? He didn't.
Amazing.
To their anger, this little son of a. Remember who was the governor? Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
He called in the National Guard. He goes, no. So he was a president, and he said no, I'm not gonna. And he worked with the governor, Ronald Reagan. They brought out a National Guard, and he later became a senator. Now, anyone who repeats it, they try to go, yeah. And they even try to make it look like, so you walk away thinking he was, a state senator in the California thing. No.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal.
He was a full-blown United States senator.
Yeah.
And so, but you'll never hear his name because he doesn't exist. You need a Democratic. And that's,
if he's still around. If he's still around, they should have.
So he died in.
They should have nominated for Speaker of the House.
No, he didn't. He died in 1992. But
yeah, that's what I mean. If he was still around, they should have nominated him for Speaker.
So yeah,
they're nominating everybody else,
Yeah. I mean, so that was kind of the weird thing about this about the well, we go to the Nihao incident, Pearl Harbor, and so it continues. In 2009, the Smithsonian said, well, we have these records before World War II broke out. The FBI actually broke into the Japanese consulate general in Los Angeles. Yes, and in the safe there was a list of like 3,000 or 4,000 Japanese Americans whom the Japanese consul general deemed were not trustworthy by the Imperial Japanese government. And so it was lauded as, see, Japanese Americans were all loyal. And they go, this problem, no Japanese Americans ever convicted of espionage against the U.S. And I said, that's not true.
You had to have a couple.
Wait a minute. I did the math, and I thought that was a list of the Japanese Americans that the Imperial Japanese government could not trust. There were about 3,500 of them.
Right.
So the rest you could, which you understood. They were cooperating in running espionage activities. For example, if you look at the photograph of Malcolm X when he was assassinated.
Yeah.
In the Roosevelt Hotel in New York. There, if you look carefully, there's an Asian woman. She's despicable. She died in 2014. She's Japanese American named Kochi. Her name is Yuri Kochiyama. She died in 2014. She's Japanese American, but she's a member of Weather Underground, the Maoist. She's a Maoist.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing all this stuff. She's proud of it. Google loves her, and they're going, she's a heroine.
Google loves everybody that's
her father
like
clearly was working for Imperial Japanese government during World War II, but she'll say, no, we were all, So I remember there's some documents that came up on that, but it's just some weird stuff that was. So definitely these extreme left-wing movements they've thrived.
Well, sure. I mean, if you're going to let them out of jail like all the time, what's going on?
Oh, wow.
Then I just lost the comments.
Oh, really?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's actually this is done. You're gonna. I don't know why or what is how I do work with my email. I try to keep the junk out so much that I end up with. I want to send it to you as a PDF.
Okay, yeah. Here, I'll do another test email to you. Hold on. Because
no, I have it.
Here it is.
I'll just reply and attach it as a PDF. But I do want to cut a version of it. I've got a couple of different colors, but like white, silver, orange, green. I don't keep a ton of different colors of vinyl. You say,
hey, when's the last time you slept?
Oh, I usually go to bed around now.
Okay.
I'll get up at like I don't go to work during the week. It's 2 weeks. I start at 5 and then go to 1:30 in the morning, and then the next 2 weeks, like this Monday, I'll start at 7 and go to 3:30.
Okay. Oh, one thing, Dave, I'll maybe email you or just say, I could be totally wrong, and I don't want to get too technical, but I was actually tracking some of the variants on because you can't trust China because they only put over little under 3,800 genomic sequences of this gift they've given to the world in the past 3 years. So anyways, there's probably right in mainstream news, they're talking about this. Oh, this variant is called XBB 151. Now, I look at it and I'm going, okay, you know what? I know all things are not equal. It's not ceteris paribus from 3 years ago. But one thing is very familiar sounding from 3 years ago. And the characteristic of this is it's very strong affinity for the ACE2 receptor. And I go, that's like what it was in January. Exactly. So I was saying, that's why if you could do something over again, that's why I say it's the zinc in this case, because the zinc for the ACE2 receptor is the only metalloenzyme on that. And that was the whole argument. But I also remember February 2020, there was all this stuff. The president said hydroxychloroquine, and it was really weird because it's a really simple sort of theory. It's like, it's not really toxic, but the whole point is it's not going to cure it. But it was just like how it probably works is helping maximize your zinc levels. But then you go through the stuff, you're going, let's just have a decent, safe level of zinc. That's it.
Yeah, but but then people be losing too much money.
No, they wouldn't. Well,
you can't sell a cure unless somebody's actually sick.
Yeah, well, it was another case back in here in Tokyo, and she is in the States right now, but she is a Wall Street Journal reporter, and so is her husband. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband has a really cool name. He's the nicest guy in the world. He's from Texas, but his last name is McClane, Sean McClane. I'll tell you how this came into play. Sounds like Die Hard, John McClane.
Yeah.
And what happened was she actually caught the vid, and she was hospitalized in February 2021 in the Japanese International Hospital. So, okay, her family, his wife, kind of high blood pressure, cardio, things like that, right? So she had the oximeter set. Okay, she's hospitalized, right? It turned out one of her symptoms was a burning sensation in her left foot. Okay.
Burning sensation.
So then the physicians there, in all their wisdom, said, "Oh, that burning sensation in your left foot is caused by a deficiency in zinc."
Okay.
So and by the way, her father is a senior epidemiologist, and she's ethnically Indian, and so they said, "Oh, so can you give me zinc?" And she asked 3 times for it at the hospital. Meanwhile, they have a system when the Wall Street Journal is sending care packages. They inspect them, and it takes about a day and a half before she receives them in a hotel room. It's like prison. So they said, no. Remember, Peter denied Jesus 3 times.
Yeah.
Right? We keep that. She was denied 3 times and nothing, nada. So her husband says, hey, do you think you could at least get that? And I said, okay, I'll try. And I talked to my boy, and I said, if this doesn't work, we got one guy would call. So I went with a care package. You get these things. If you're going to be in hospital, there were some other things I thought, okay, you should be taking on top of this. But they included things like eye masks and other things, and they were all stacked with zinc. So it was a Sunday or something, and I go to the lobby. 2 guys in their 50s, Japanese guys with these supermarket these uniforms. Who are you? Do you have a relationship to anyone here? And I said, I kind of talked like, no. And they're well, yeah. And I said, no. But you see, I was ordered here by Mr. McClane.
Yeah.
Now, Sean is the nicest guy, but I made him sound like John McClane, in Die Hard. And so I have to bring this up to his wife.
Yeah.
They're going, okay. So what's in there? Hey, they're going to inspect it. And this is where I kind of planned. I said, well, sorry, my Japanese isn't so good, but that thing, that women need, and it's like once a month. And they're looking at me and it's coming out. And the moment they realized that I was lying, of course, that I was saying it was tampons, and they almost like, do you want to see it? They literally, they went like, no. I swear, it was like kryptonite. And they go, okay. And I go, okay,
your pantomimes are amazing.
And then I'm walking out. Remember, my friend had said it'd taken like a day and a half for Wall Street Journal to send the package. 7 minutes later, I'm walking out. I get a message on my Apple. What did you say to them? I said, why? I got it. The fastest I ever got it. And I'll say, those guards are allergic to the mention of periods,
Yeah.
And so it was like, but then I said, why the F? Zinc is not a medication.
Right.
controlled substance and nothing. Why the hell would these guys not even? She wasn't saying I want you to pay for it. She could get it, right? They were going, no, controlling everything. And it was my boy who told me this. He goes, Dad, that's a research hospital. I said, so what? He goes, you know how
there's
they
like
think?
a floor. There's a floor with monkeys.
Do you know how they think?
Yeah.
They kind of think that it might be a good, interesting opportunity to see what happens.
See, that sounds.
I said, son,
that's just.
700 meters away is the historical derivative, I don't know, the descendant of Unit 731. Human experimentation and bioweapons. And I said, yeah, that's ironic. But then I asked my friend again, did they ever effing explain why they withheld this? And she goes, no, not really. Then she kind of said, they kind of just wanted to see what would happen. And it was
Manchu Detachment 731, also known as the Camo Detachment in Ishii unit.
Oh, Dr. Ishii, yeah. He got, I don't know how much it was, that $200,000.
Covert Biological Chemical Warfare Research Development Unit of the Imperial Japanese Army. So basically, it was the Japanese version of Dachau.
Sure.
Or that part of it,
not
where
Dachau,
they're just the part where they're experimenting on people.
Oh, the Mengele and everything like that. Yeah. That would be let me see, 731. I can probably find a reference to it.
I did. It was like a little Wikipedia thing.
Yeah. No, I have a in any event, they oh, here it is.
Pacific human experimentation. Oh, do you remember seeing? Well, it was a pretty good installment in the found footage genre of horror movie, which was called. I'm gonna have to IMDb this. Not. It had to do with Keep talking. I'll think of it.
I'm trying to find a walking tour of some of the. You might not even. It's kind of creepy because it looks so wonderful at this park, and there's these weird mounds and stuff, and you can see. What do they call it? The Unit 731 walking tour in Tokyo. I'm not kidding. I'll send you the link. I think the photos are still there, and you wouldn't know what it was unless you saw the context. Let me put it into private chat. They got rid of it. Here, hold on. Look at private chat for a second, and it's an archive because it's off the web. The title of that is called the Tokyo Damage Report, Unit 731 Walking Tour of Okubo. And then you see these photos.
Oh, there it is. Frankenstein's Army. That was really good. I mean, but it was a found footage where they found a secret part of a Nazi camp where they were doing all kinds of cool experimentation, basically making like Nazi super soldiers, but it was like way over the top, where they're just like mutant things running around and, but I mean, that's where my head went whenever you went to biological experiments. I was like, oh wait, there's this cool thing about that. And then as if there's anything cool about, experimenting on people.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I can put it in. There's actually, it's bloody disgusting. I'll put it in the private chat. Bloody disgusting article.
Oh, it's right in the title. Jeez.
No, I mean, it's a bloody disgusting. It's a bloody disgusting article. The bloody disgusting is a website.
Oh, J.J. Abrams? Oh.
There it is. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Frankenstein. Okay, so do you ever, I don't know if you're, Jordan Peterson, do you know who he is, or is he?
Sure.
Yeah.
Kind
of, okay.
I read his book. Well, I listened to it.
Okay, here's a weird
rules.
thing.
Yeah.
He's the province of Ontario College of Psychologists are hoping
Oh
that
yeah,
they can force
they
him.
want to revoke his license until he
Yeah.
goes through a some sort of a
Remedial
re-education program or
Yeah,
something like that.
re-education camp.
Yeah,
So here's the thing.
psychology. You have to go through a re-education camp
Mhm.
to keep your psychology degree. Sounds crazy.
Yeah,
It is. I mean, dude, just leave. Leave that. Leave. He can make a living anywhere, but that's what he's talking about is being able to treat
you know what's
his
not
own
named?
patients.
He's
It's not
not
even about. It's not
the
even
guy.
about
There's a
his.
guy named Bernard Shapiro. He was born in 1935. He's 87 years old, and I
Yeah.
can't go over it in detail, but he is behind a lot of this movement. And you're going, what? So if you look at Bernard Shapiro's wiki, and you're going like, so what? What's this guy? He was born 1935. His twin brother was president. Howard Taft Shapiro was president of Princeton. But they said, Canadian academic, civil servant, former principal and vice chancellor of McGill University in Montreal from 1994 to 2004, and first ethics commissioner of Canada between 2004 and 2007.
Mm-hmm.
No, you got to go below. Look in the 1979. He was a dean of faculty of education, University of Western Ontario in Canada. And then he was from 80s. He was a director of the Ontario, kind of the education ministry, and he moves up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand, because I have intimate knowledge, very close knowledge of this guy's history. Okay.
It's not a very big article in Wikipedia. It's almost like they don't want to say something.
But he is driving this. So let me see. He wrote this. I can't. I don't know if he'll even go in chat, but this is what he was quoted in. Oh, I hate doing this. Okay. Okay, so I'll give you the quote. And you got to remember, this is 30 years, more than 30 years ago, right? And if you kind of bring it all the way to what's going on now and with Jordan Peterson is this. So we have him in Bernard Shapiro was the deputy minister of education, and he was ostensibly a neutral professional civil servant. And in 1987, they had a proposed
I like
anti-racist.
The wording that he uses is just disgusting. My own sense is that
these guys are members, and it's very deep of this Marxist movement. So they had proposed an anti-racist measures in 87, and here's the quote. This guy says, "My own sense is that the time to have a mandatory policy, the time to wield the stick, is when you have 3 or 4 recalcitrants out there that you want to whip into shape. Resocialization takes time. The point is to produce the result, not to produce the symbol of the result. The easiest thing to do is to make a policy mandatory and to announce that the problem has been solved." And he told this to the Toronto Star newspaper, September 12th, 1987. See, you're going, you're picking up. So
no. Well, you're talking about these are psychologists and professors of psychology that are on the side of big government
that
and
actually had a vision that they could say we can shape this and we can do it, and they will. And so when people say, yeah, well, it was around 2009 this BS happened and everyone, and I'm going, look, I don't want to sound arrogant or like it's not a no, but it was far earlier. It was far earlier. And a lot of
Well,
people
no, but
you
because
don't
if
know.
you trace,
Yeah.
but if this is the thing, if you trace the people that say that are also simultaneously forgetting that all of the thought leaders in the 20s and 30s, the spiritualists, the occultists, the people who were into eugenics and things like that,
Yeah.
the people like Mussolini and Hitler were fans of theirs. So all these ideas, 2009 and earlier and whatever. Well, there's people now that are in power that were studying these people then, the same way that, I don't even remember who all the names were. There's, but it is like the people that were into eugenics, the people that were, for one of the reasons why the Germans thought that they were a superior race was because of the things that they read in The Origins of Man. And it was actually the same thing that the Japanese, the empire thought the same thing. The ideas that came out of the origins of man, the study of evolution.
Oh, actually, there. Let me find this one. This is a kind of a good one because it also.
The point being is trying to poo-poo the idea that none of this matters because those were old ideas doesn't wash, because the ideas that were popular with people like Hitler were a decade to 15 years before that. They were popular then, or they weren't popular then. They were out there, People are still reading the Communist Manifesto and getting something out of it. The social Marxism that we have to deal with today, that's all stuff that was bandied about, decades ago. Somebody got a hold of it. They thought it was really good, and now they're in power and they want to implement it. Am I even allowed to say that?
I know some of the.
Name,
I know
is
some of the.
Is the H word going to get my channel struck?
I know some of the talking points for recruiting on the socialist movement, and some of it's kind of interesting, like that you would apply now. Like it's kind of similarly in the 80s. If you had these cults in North America, you normally, I think, for most intents and purposes, you would actually have your cover would be non-denominational Christian, like I'm talking about, like the Way and stuff like that. And so their way of interacting or engaging would be, for example, say you're living for the first time on a college campus, right? Maybe your parents are divorced. They don't say, "Hey, we're a cult." They go, "Hey, we have these." It would be like a meetup event these days, Yeah. You're going out there, and one of the things they actually do is very interesting because, somebody pointed out later, hey, that's what happens in a corporate retreat. In most cases, you go to a remote place. You didn't have to worry about cell phones in those days, but you do that so you're not able to call back home or just get the hell out of there.
So you can't report back to. No.
And so the next thing is this: you're going to have group activities, and one of the most powerful things is people say, "Oh, it's going to be peer pressure." So how do you use this? Well, we're going to have like 72 hours. And you're going to unwittingly, because you're running these activities, you're going to do caloric restriction, limited nourishment.
Yeah.
And sleep deprivation through these group activities. And now, when you're inclined to opt out, they'll say the peer pressure. Hey, ID crisis. Max is waiting for you. You don't want to let him down.
Yeah.
And so by 48 hours
Good
or so.
Good old-fashioned Catholic guilt.
48 hours, you're kind of caloric restriction or deprivation, protein particularly, sleep deprivation.
So you're more susceptible to those pressures.
And then at some point they would say, hey, look, I think everyone's ready. We're going to do just a relaxation thing, just lie down. And you might introduce some of their BS stuff. Because they're not trying to get everyone. It's like the bull who says we don't want to get everyone.
Well, in fact, they can't get everyone, and anybody who seems to have some sort of a stronger than normal willpower. A lot of times they'll be
good night, Susie.
They'll be like, no, see you later. We don't need you because you can't be manipulated.
Susie's gonna good night. She's going to bed.
Hey, Susie. Yeah, I'm actually getting there myself.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for the compliments.
Oh, thanks,
I
man.
appreciate it.
Yes.
But it's like 5:16 here.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
just so that you know that I know what you're talking about, I
Mhm.
grew up in one of those houses where my parent, and in parentheses,
Mhm.
parents were manipulated by a word of faith church, and the only thing that they were supposed to do was give their money over to this seed faith, basically,
Mhm.
which is, I mean, it's really pernicious. What you end up doing, what you are told is everything is possible through faith. They take the Bible and they manipulate it
Mhm.
for somebody who doesn't, because I mean it can be hard to understand at times, but they'll manipulate it to make it sound like you can, like Joel Osteen, you can have your best life now. You can have all the money that you want. You can have all these things because the Holy Spirit wants you to have them. And here's all these Bible verses saying that all these things are possible. All you have to do is believe. And here's the bad part, the really dark, dark part. If you're not rich, if you do get sick, because that's part of it, your health, you're supposed to be healthy and wealthy. You can live forever. In some cases, these people are told this. If those things don't happen for you, it's your fault because you don't have enough faith.
Yep. It's kind of a perverted version of the Calvinist sort of credo, and other areas.
But it is. It's like it's your basic televangelist thing, and what's really damaging is that for people who really are looking for a strong faith, or for what the Christian faith is supposed to be, they are totally thrown off track because they don't know which one of these people actually knows what they're talking about. There is good Christian leadership out there, but most of the guys, if all they want is your money, nah.
So what didn't happen in the 80s now, those children of those people, they may actually be more open to saying, I don't consider myself Christian. And these are these young kids who are into Asian stuff and spiritual stuff. So this is where you do the recruiting. And I don't believe it. I'm just.
When you say Asian stuff, are you mean like Eastern mysticism?
Yes, you want to know the basics of something older than this very, very this Judeo-Christian stuff.
Yeah.
We go to Confucius.
Well, the swastika is an Eastern occult symbol.
And they go, oh, Confucius. They move you from Confucius. And if you do it well, you can go to, in Japanese you call Motaku Mao Zedong.
Yeah.
And we can get you all the way up to the 14 points of Xi Jinping thought, like number 14 in the global. And you're going, really? Yeah, because what you're doing is you're almost saying, well, for example, with Confucius, with honoring them, where do you think they come? It's in your 10 Commandments. So weak, so new. They owe this to the Confucius, and this is the whole thing. Yeah. And remember that whole honor thy parents. Your father, Sung Young Moon, or something like it. It goes to that, and these people who are willing to give up their Christian faith,
ability to think for themselves.
Oh, it must be good, and I don't want to be racist. And spiritual. Oh, yes, it's Asian. Yeah. And then now I got you into,
it's a belief system. It's a cult,
and you'll never figure out how did I get here.
Yeah, deprogramming needs to happen. We need to have that if we actually had decent leadership who knew what they were doing, which that's never going to happen. But yeah, we need to have some deprogramming on a massive scale. Well, there are some Confucian teachings that I really do adhere to. Like
there is actually a deprogramming system. You know what it's called? I'm half kidding, but I would say.
What?
The way to programming is through, again, people like my parents, psychologists and everything, is through the public getting hold of control of the public school system. So the deprogramming solution that's always been out there, but always been derided and always been attacked is homeschooling.
Yeah.
Is homeschooling.
Yeah.
Is on
But
point.
there are some teachings from Confucius,
Not everyone can do it.
from
Can't do it all
Confucius
the
that I
time.
do enjoy.
Mhm.
Would you like to hear some?
For what? Teachings from?
Confucian teachings that
Yeah.
are that I think are really good.
Mm.
Man who stands on toilet is high on pot. You've heard that one
Confucius
before. That's
say-
an old one, right?
Yeah. Confucius say baseball is all wrong. Men with 4 ball cannot walk.
Well, okay. All right. What's the other one I heard? Confucius say, a man who. Oh wait. Okay. Well, the difference between a pickpocket and a peeping tom is that a pickpocket snatches watches, and a peeping tom
Watches.
snatches.
You know,
I got those from an old radio from an old morning radio show.
One of the interesting things is if you go to even though there's a lot of similarities, one thing is when you go to Koreans and people who know both, like Andrews and Korean, they have on their $10 bill one they have $10. They have this Confucian scholar. There is their Confucius scholar. I forgot the name, Yitege or something. They've never changed it. Japan's changed on their 1,000 yen bill, but the Koreans never have, and they never will. And it's also really weird. They have a Confucian scholar there. It's like if America was actually, so we've put adopted this. Well, Moses is on our $10 bill or something. Okay. But here's the thing. They really do take this this hierarchy very strictly. Yeah. Where is it? The blue one. Korean money. There's an old guy there. I can't see.
Oh, maybe it's on the other side.
That's 1852. You got to get the current money.
All right. Let me see.
Not the guy with a hat.
Is that this guy? Oh, that's a lot of money.
No, that's too much. You're looking for 1,000, a blue one.
Oh, 1,000.
Okay.
I thought you said it was a $10.
Yeah. So one in the very top. One in the very top.
Let me do this.
Oh no, right there. The blue one.
There.
That one. Yeah. So what it translates down to, even though you have hierarchy in Japan, right? Older versus, I've had this conversation. A guy goes, when were you born? I tell him. Then he goes, no, what month? What year? I tell him. And then it turns out like he's like born 1 month before me, and he triumphantly declares, I am your senior. And I go, what? It doesn't make a
you're older
difference.
than me. You're not smarter than me.
They hold that I'm older and.
Oh no, believe me, I know what you mean.
Crazy.
I have a twin brother that I am 1 minute older than.
Yeah, but thank God you're not Korean.
I've used it our whole life.
Okay. Oh, you are Korean. Okay. But that's one of this real authoritarian sort of hierarchical thinking is really prevalent in the Korean mindset. I think it screws them up, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, all cultures are. What is that? What this guy said? If you're 1 minute older than your
he is representative of this Confucian thought, and the Koreans have really adopted this ancestor, especially the aspects of honor thy parents, like to this next level.
Well,
Probably
yeah,
more than the
honoring
Chinese.
them isn't the same. So what you're saying is they're replacing the word honor, or they're redefining honor as worship.
Yeah, or it's expanding that word obey, and you know.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, there's a difference between honoring and worshiping. Honor, obey, sure. Worship. I don't worship my wife.
No.
You know, I barely even obey her. Sometimes I'll listen to what she has to say. Sometimes. All right, maybe this. Maybe,
I'm just wondering if she's in earshot because
no, man, she's not. She's in bed. It's 5:30.
Yeah.
In fact, we've been going for close to 3 hours.
This is good though.
Well, I hope you liked it. I don't know how often I can do this after
No.
work. I'm trying to get something figured out to where I'm doing more art stuff and drawing and things like that. And this was for the most part to say thank you for the pencils.
thank
I
you.
want to
No.
be able to
No,
cut
no,
out some of
I
these
just-
things. That's why I was asking you if you're able to. Are you allowed to put stuff on your car?
Oh yeah,
Because
yeah.
if I
No,
mean I
I
can.
got rid of my cars. I got rid of my cars. I'm in Tokyo.
Because I mean, well,
It's
actually, it doesn't
limited.
even like have to go on your car, but I can cut out
Mhm.
some of these like vinyl decals and send them to you.
Remember when you asked me which kind of company at Toyota that I worked at? One of the companies was, I hated it. They were doing that raised hiboscal, but
What's that?
it was, they called it hiboscal, but it was just it's urethane potting with underlying metallic stamping. So I don't know if you even
Urethane
use it
potting?
anymore. Urethane potting, they call it. So you have that urethane, and I hated this stuff. Maybe they don't put it on to the cars anymore. In the 90s they would, for the mid to lower end cars, so that it's a Tercel or a Corolla, but it was actually adhesive, 3M adhesive, and then you'd have an underlying, maybe a foil raised, whatever, but then you would have this urethane, it would be almost like a dome sort of.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's sort of like a raised, like a bubble sticker or something like that.
Yeah.
No, this is just a decal.
Yeah. And so I was remembering, we can cars. And are you doing a lot of when you say you're working, are you
No,
working on
it's a regular job. It's a good job. It's not hard to do, but I'd rather be doing something else. It's not art related, in other words.
Okay.
Yeah, they manufacture surgical devices for spines and knees and things like that.
Oh, that's what you knew about cervical stenosis and stuff.
No, I just I've been studying human anatomy for a while, and every once in a while you'll come across some piece of Latin that sticks. You know what I mean, like muscle groups and things like that. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that we produce some stuff for the spine. We produce stuff for knees and hips. But it's basically it's all contract manufacturing. It's nothing that it's nothing that we create and then sell. We just make it for other companies.
You know what? I guess patents expired. I don't know how that works, but I mean, this is like in 2003 or 4. It was a younger brother. He was an orthopedic surgeon, and his younger brother. I can find the patent somewhere, but basically, his area was hip replacements, right?
Yeah.
So he asked me, "Can you show this to the head of Nike Japan?" I go, "What is it?" It looked like a hip joint socket. It was made out of plastic, but you put a golf ball in it instead of a hip joint. And in Japan, you have a lot of hardwood floors.
Yeah.
And you have people who are crazy about golfing.
Yeah.
But they don't have the space. So you get those little. So here you could put a regular golf ball on this, and there's enough friction on a hardwood floor, so the ball's not going to go crazy rolling off, and you can practice putting anywhere you want it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And when I looked at it right away, I just thought, oh, this is from the mind of a orthopedic hip surgeon.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Some
golf.
of the like the design work that goes into it, and the international standards are, I mean, their tolerances are very tight. It's amazing. The products that are machined. It's not like they're not going in a car. Everything has to be absolutely perfect and exact, and to a very, very high standard at every stage of production. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say much more than that, because but it's I think to the day where I might need to have something like a knee or something like that, and the conversation that I have with the doctor is going to be very different than the conversations he's ever had with anybody else. Where are you getting it from? Are you getting it from this company, this company, this company? because I would rather have one from this company because I know, you know what I mean?
Like I have a friend. He had a heart attack in 2011, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't know it was coming. I actually told. Anyways, when they put those stents in,
Yeah.
they get furry, fuzzy, and which one, But in this case, ahead of time if you're going to get something put in.
Mm-hmm.
You actually, yeah, and exactly,
Well, the stent that's like
uh,
that mesh that goes inside the artery that kind of holds it open.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Some of them
I
have to,
believe
depending on it.
that those are somehow in what do you want to call it, infused with vitamin.
Really?
Somebody told me something about that.
Well,
there's
so many different types. Some of them have to be cleaned. Some of them have to be replaced.
Yeah.
And some of them go wrong.
No, one buddy that I grew up with, and I'm gonna have to end it on this because it'll end up. I have trouble. I have problems with tangents. They just go on forever. I hadn't seen him in years. I went up to Buffalo to see a football game with a friend of mine down here. So we're like, I'll introduce you to some of my friends. We know the town. We'll be able to, have a good time up there. And we're catching up on old times. And he says, "Oh yeah," he goes, "I had have a valve put in." I go, "Oh really?" He goes, "Yeah, I had something wrong with my heart valve for like all those years, like, and we were like teenagers. We just go out and party and whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, it's really funny too, because he goes, he put your ear up to my chest and I'm listening. I can hear it go click, 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 click. He goes, I go, "Wow, that sounds crazy." He goes, "Tell me about it." He goes, "I got home from the hospital and I had to get used to the sound. It was so loud. I kept turning the noise up on the TV. The neighbors ended up calling the cops." It's just that, like it's this click click thing that keeps happening. He's not used to hearing it all the time. He's trying to drown it out. But yeah, it's like it's just this. It's a little plastic and metal thing in there that's and it sounds like like the Tin Man's heart.
Oh, that's too freaky. It's it
was freaky. I'm like, you seriously want me to put my head up to your bosom so I can listen to this thing go TikTok? It goes, yeah.
Well, nowadays, people want that one shot. They come out with the camera and they go, "Gotcha!" Now it's a YouTube short.
yeah. Who knows? But I'm glad you showed up, man. You're hanging strong here for like 3 hours.
Well, I mean, you've been working. I didn't quite get it. I thought, hey, wait, you're getting the ESTs wrong. You said you finish at 2 a.m. I was going like,
yeah.
So
no. Well, I wasn't gonna be.
Like, oh, I get it. Yeah.
I got home at 2. I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to. Mm-hmm. I always expect stuff to go wrong, terribly wrong.
That is a great studio in the back. Well, first time we were on stream, I looked in the back and I said, I'm envious.
Yeah.
That's a great.
That's the vinyl cutter. That's the old Mac that runs the vinyl cutter. And this is something that I use for video games that I don't have time to play. And then there's an Xbox. This little white thing right here is aromatherapy, something my wife gave me because it'll, like, if I'm painting something down here with the enamels, it'll start to stink like paint thinner.
Yeah.
But it keeps the basement from smelling like a basement. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got the septic. Remember first time we talked, you had the septic tank, and I was wondering, is it close enough? Is it far enough? And then you were talking about the fall. If it's the issues of, is it too deep? Because if something goes wrong, you can't repair it. And so.
Well, no, they put it has to be a certain depth, but then there's risers so that the lid can come off and they can pump the thing out. I might have. It's funny because I told the guys whenever it was coming off the truck, I said the first thing that my wife is going to say creates heat. I'm thinking.
Go back to the lessons on maintaining that thing in the in septic tank, because if you forget it's a septic tank.
Oh yeah, no, I don't.
Your kid
Nobody
gets
spends that much
cleans.
money on something like that and then forgets.
But then your kid then goes, oh well, I didn't know, and you go,
No,
yeah.
we've learned a lot over the years, for sure. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. And
Well, 'cause we had
I
one at our old
learned
place.
so I learned not just about the tank itself, but all of the how old the neighborhood was,
Mhm.
why things are set up the way they're set up, why we're never going to see sewage probably here ever. I mean, it's over here, sewage is over here, sewage is over here, but not this little coal patch.
You're on a hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On top of an old coal mine.
Oh. Which is good. It's not.
It's not good if there's mine subsidence.
Okay.
But I don't think like we're not directly over the top of it,
Mhm.
But it is. It's like when you walk into the garage, there's an old shower head that's going through one of the floor joists,
Mhm.
because that's the first thing that you did when you got home from work was you washed all the coal dust off of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't, in that area, you don't have like things like radon gas or issues, or it's not.
Could. I mean, we have like radon gas detectors and things like that, but
Yeah.
so far nothing. I had a carbon monoxide alarm go off the other day, but the batteries were it was actually aged out.
Hey, guess what? In Japan, we had a CO monoxide thing, and it went off.
Mm-hmm.
But then I look, and they go, oh well, you own it, you can. But I looked it up, and I'm not that handy. But I said, I suspect that this is perfect. It was all hardwired in good stuff. None of this fancy ass stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it just needed just carefully taking off and cleaning the thing,
Mm-hmm.
taking it out, putting it back in. It's fine.
Well,
so
the one that we had up there ran on batteries, and it would give you a specific sound if it was running low on batteries. It would also give you a specific chirp if it had outlived its lifespan, and that's one of the noises it was making. I had been doing a pretty decent amount of painting in here too, and I thought maybe it was
the VOCs that go up there. It's probably, and at some point I think with the, there was a very thin, I don't know if it's foil. I realized that actually gets contaminated. So if you could figure out how to clean that with solvent, restore it, it gets it stops sending out false positives. Yeah.
Right. But I'm gonna have to hang it up here so that I can be somewhat of use to the people tomorrow whenever they get up and I'm still in bed. But
it's Saturday night here, so I'm gonna start. Going to depend. I'll probably start cooking.
Really? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Make some.
But it's something. Great hanging out with you. I'm gonna send emails. I'm gonna send you maybe some other stuff. I have an artist friend.
You don't have to send me. You don't have to keep sending me stuff.
No. This you don't have to do this. This is great. I wanted to send those to you, and it's great.
I appreciate them.
Because
they're very handy.
I remember
watching. I like, this is. I want to use these things, and I think having some more draw streams and doing artistic stuff on that table there with the other with this other camera, then that's good motivation.
But it's all the kind of stuff. If someone was explaining, oh, who's this guy in America, and I'll say, it's this thing, because you would never say you're typical. I say, there's many typical aspects of the work one does and how you approach work and what you do in terms of your secondary work and how you and from a Japanese perspective, they go, wow, this guy's so look. And I'll say this is actually, and I don't think a lot of Americans think, oh, what are you talking about? I said, no, this is like really kind of actually really enviable situation. Whereas people don't. Yeah, sure. Just don't go into leverage.
Oh yeah, no. No, I do have to figure out what to do with this thing because it's, I mean, time's a wasting. I mean, there's only so many good years, and I don't want to spend mine on my feet or at a job or whatever. If there's something that I can do to retire early, I will. Because I would honestly, I would rather be working on my comic book or anything else, you know.
You've done a lot of comic stuff?
No, this is my first one. I've always wanted to, and because I'm only working on I'm working on the pencils on page 9 right now. But at the same time, I'm also reading literature, and I just got done reading a book called Framed Ink, which is really, really good about composing shots and then composing pages. And I'm looking at this one, wondering if I actually, got it right. This is it. This is our heroes finally rescuing these 2 kids. He's busting out of the door, right? And then you can't see it right now, but he's actually here. He's still in blue line. He's running towards our this van, and this other little kid that was on his back is running towards this. It's going to be a 1964 Buick Riviera lowrider. That's his little, what do you call it? Chola helper. Her hat's too big too. I'm going to have to fix that hat. But he's climbing in the front seat, and then our hero is handing this other invalid kid over to their doctor friend in the van, and then taking off his helmet because he's got to drive away. But that's what this is. That's what this is. Page 9.
I'm gonna send you this. Oh damn, in creators. This guy I've known for a long time, and I think he had some.
And this is page 8.
Success and flops. Named Stu Levy, and he just sent me this Christmas card thing. I'm not sure what it is though. Pop Media Holdings. I don't know if they're active, but he used to do Tokyo Pop. But actually, I don't know much about that industry. You know what happened to the writer Robert Whiting? He's my friend. I saw him last night. This is funny because oh, I know you got to go. Sorry. Robert Whiting is a preeminent author. He's 80 years old of Japanese baseball and also the organized crime. Right.
Okay.
He has stuff like, I'll give you the wiki. You can say Robert Whiting. But here's the thing about Robert Whiting. This is not Stu Levy stuff. I just sent you Robert Whiting. When I remember Robert Whiting was, he had written, I think in 1989, he had written You Gotta Have Wa. It was not his first book, but it was on the covering the gaijin, the foreign players who play baseball here for Japanese places, right? All the stories. Anyways, what happened was in 1989, he had been approached by these Hollywood producers that were making this film called Mr. Baseball, starring Tom Selleck.
I remember that movie, yeah.
So there was nothing, but he had heard discerning reports that they filmed it where I was in Nagoya. And while they're filming, these guys would be referring to Robert Whiting's book. And so then Robert is represented by Harry Offland, the late Harry Offland. I am whatever. So they contact. But in those days, the power is very different. So they said to him something like, we're going to give you like 75,000, admission of nothing. You don't get any credit. Take it or leave it. Oh, if you don't like it. And you know where because they were so confident that if he ever took it, they would get, hey, come on, get lost. Yeah. So whatever. It's the agent, they took it, whatever. It was 75K, or it's a nominal amount. Remember, they were not giving him an agreement. They were not licensing the royalties or rights for You Gotta Have Wa.
Jeez.
Shortly thereafter, one of the largest publishing companies in Japan called Kadokawa, books and everything, they go, "Oh, are there rights available for your derivative rights available for, you got to have one?" They go, "Yeah, they are." And they made a comic book series.
Oh yeah.
And that made him at least.
What is it? A comic book series, or what do you consider? Is it considered manga?
I think it would be considered manga, but
Okay.
Bob didn't. They bought the rights and they had their own production of.
I mean, not that they're super different, but I just figured, like, as I had heard that before, like, manga is very popular here as it is in Japan, and a lot of like American people, like people who believe that they want to believe that comic book sales are just fine when they're not. They include manga sales because there is a manga for everything. As I understand it, there's a manga for every subject.
Yeah. And so it was, he made about $1 million from that, because
that's awesome.
And so it's a kind of a nice karma story.
Yeah. They were trying to get him out of they were trying to get something for nothing.
Yeah. And so he didn't really care. But nobody would have actually, you didn't know that at the time, right?
Right.
And so I just said, okay, so if somebody says, "Oh, how do you know about," I said, "Bob Whiting." I saw him last night, actually, and I got to get back to him. He's writing a piece.
Yeah.
But
you didn't give me a lot of stuff to research. I have it saved. I have it saved in my stickies. I'm gonna have to look into all these links. Every time you start typing on the keyboard,
if you have something you want published or you want a publisher to see. So I mean, I know people that sometimes it bothers me. People say, "Oh,
yeah,
can you look at it?" His door is too open. Sometimes I argue, but I'll say, "Hey, say you show it to him."
I have to figure out when the right time to because I mean it's been a while. I've been working on this, and I'm only on page 9, and I'm trying to do it in chronological order because I want to be able to document my own personal growth making this. First page to the last page. It's not like, it doesn't look like stick figures in the beginning, but it's traditional. And now I'm working with something digital. I'm going to be doing a couple of pages on the iPad. I just picked up this monitor that I can actually draw on because I was having a hard time working with a separate tablet. So I couldn't, my hand is over here and I'm watching it happen up here, and it was too confusing. So I have a different, it's like a monitor. You can actually, like, you draw on it.
Oh, wow.
So I call it the monitor of no excuses. You don't do something like that and then just, okay, well, I guess it's just going to sit there and I'm never going to produce this thing. But it is. It's just, I think a lot of times I'm too prissy with my materials. I see a lot of my favorite artists, their tools are a mess, and I try to keep mine. I don't try to keep them clean. I try to take care of them. But like my books don't look like they've been read because I don't devour them like I did that last book. Like I need to have like all my stuff needs to look like an old preacher's Bible. It's just been read and marked up, and notes have been taken in it, and instead of worrying about whether it's in good condition for later, it shouldn't be. It should look like it's been chewed up and spit out and recycled and regurgitated and repurposed and become a part of me. But I like the way things are going. I just know that they're going slow because I have to be somewhere else for 8 hours a day. But I'll figure it out. I'll get it done. Nothing going to stop me. Because I've always wanted to do this since I was a kid. My art career just ended up going in a different path.
No, but it's amazing. Like this is,
there's a couple of different disciplines. Like when I look back on it now, I'm like, geez, I've done embroidery, I've done screen print, I've airbrushed T-shirts, I've done custom paint, I've done pinstriping and like all these different things. I'm like, and none of it is the stuff that I dreamt about doing when I was a kid. What happened, So I'm kind of, I mean, I know there's a story behind it, but I can't start it now.
Hey, here's one thing. Okay. When this next one, Peter Miller.
You're typing again.
Yeah, I'll give you his site, and you're going to go, why? Because what he does, he's in Japan, is it's a terrible site. I'm just trying to find out. There's a good interview that he had, Peter Miller, photo. Okay, so he's an amazing person, and he has I don't know which is the best. The only problem is I can never find his there's an interview too of how he grew up. And you're gonna City Geller. Damn. Okay, yeah. So you're gonna say, wait, he's a white guy. No, he doesn't do like weird weeaboo Japanese stuff. And I'll tell you what it was. And I'll tell you why I'm not making sense. Okay, let me explain who Peter Miller is. Peter Miller is in his late 70s, and he lives in Kamakura, and he is a recognized artist in this area of photogravure. But here's a commonality with him and you. Peter had a very successful career as a management consultant.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah, PhD in anthropology from Berkeley. He's a political conservative. There's more to that. He's born in Pittsburgh, and his father is in the Baseball Hall of Fame. His late father did not want it in. You know why? His late father is the late Marvin Miller.
Yeah, I was born in
Pittsburgh. In those days when the baseball owner said, "Take it or leave it, you belong to us," and he used the power of the pen. Really, he understood economics, supply and demand. He created the first MLB Players Union. So they went after him. All the dirty tricks. They say, he's a freaking Jew, commie. No, I'm not kidding. And because he had a pencil-thin mustache and he wasn't like a union guy, because of the MLB Players Union, it's whether you sometimes criticize the overcompensation of athletes and entertainment stars, they should thank Marvin Miller. Anyways, Peter never lives off his father's whatever, because he's a great guy. When he retired in Japan, and to learn photogravure, nobody teach you. It's a secret. Nobody's going to go, oh, this is how you do it. So, and he goes, that was a challenge. He goes, because when you see these plates, he goes, here's a challenge. You make one mistake, you're cooked. So you go, yeah, but you're just taking old photograph and then you're putting the plates. I said, yeah, but it's also, and nobody teaches you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see some of the stuff, or like the Allegheny River, near where he's born. They're not all these Japanese. He happens to be in Japan. So some of the stuff is really amazing.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I know this much.
He started that at age older than us. He started this at an age, and that's also something to understand. And you said it exactly. Either one thing you're looking to do is either finish the 8-hour thing or figure it out. But you can always, it's like Monty Python. You can always also say, hey, maybe the other thing is there's a virtue in the 8-hour obligation and booking a pension in all those important long-term
things.
I
mean, there is that. I mean, it's not like
never be too late.
The pay doesn't suck. The benefits are good. It's got a decent, decent vacation. They shut down for Christmas. There's a decent bonus there, and that's awesome. And
Peter,
it is a good job, but is that what I was meant to do? You know, that's all. That's all. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't hate it. I don't like, because there's always going to be this. You either want to do something or you have to do something, and very, very, very rarely do those two Venn diagram circles be.
I think when we grew up, we always had to do something. And I don't know when it changed. And we
I
get
mean, even
folding.
simply like, do you want to fold the laundry or do you have to fold the laundry?
Yeah.
No, I will actually want to fold the laundry if it means I can sit down in front of a movie.
So
You know what I mean? It's not a bad way to do, but nobody wants to do the dishes.
actually,
They have
nobody
to
does
do the
that
dishes.
formula of the reason that includes delayed gratification. It's more like, no.
Yeah.
Then you're going like when kind of as a whole you start saying to kids, you have to like or love what you're doing. I said, wow, that's pretty rare. That's almost like
It
a
is. And twice I had taken my air compressor and airbrushes and gone to my daughter's high school for 2 separate years. Her art teacher had me come in and do some demonstrations. And that's one of the things that I always said. I go, doing what you love for a living doesn't make it not feel like work. It takes the sting out of it, because whatever it is, and as long as whatever your talent, like the comic book here that I'm doing this for myself. It feels great. All my best work I ever did not have any money involved in it, because as soon as there's money involved, now you're doing it for somebody else. And it's basically, they're the boss. And it's like this. I love my art and I love my wife, but I can only put one of them out on the corner to make money for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but that's basically what happened. When I'm doing this, I mean, I might be able to sell the book at the end of the day for $25-$35 a copy, put some tchotchkes in there and just work it the way that all of the other like Comicsgate guys do. But while I'm making it the way that I want it. I'm not doing another Grim Reaper on a motorcycle tank because that's what the customer wants. You know, I'm not doing the same thing for somebody else.
If I were getting into, I know this from talking, I'm not a writer, but I know how Robert has understood it. Similarly, I would make sure that you get a course on intellectual property rights, on copyright, so that you don't. So I know, for example, with Robert Whiting, once in a while, every few years, a studio buys the rights to one of his books, an option, $250,000.
Yeah.
My point is, a lot of people don't understand that. They only think that, oh, you get it, and so. These sort of things, as a writer, you should understand the different very derivative forms and how they're done off.
Oh, you're talking about reproduction rights, straight up ownership rights.
You may have some of your works and you may say, okay, this derivative form, you may be able to say, okay, maybe sometimes there's options put out, maybe, I don't know how it's done, but then, and it's no shame in thinking a bit commercial and mercenary. It would be no more than those guys on YouTube that are.
In fact, anytime somebody derides somebody else for being a sellout, I laugh at them. Like, what do you think you're doing here? Like, seriously, like, what sort of weird hero persona do you think you are when somebody is about to give you $100,000 for fill in the blank, and it's still yours or whatever? Like, somebody would say that Jesse James, West Coast Choppers, is a sellout. What do you mean he's a sellout? How do you mean? Because why? Because he's making money, or anybody else, anybody like that. Yeah, I can't wait for the day somebody calls me a sellout, because I'm going to be making a lot of money. Now, I mean, and that's just how I define it. I don't want to, hand over something like this that I really like over to somebody who's going to be irresponsible with it. I wouldn't be a sellout like that way. You know what I mean? But I do, like, if anything that I do makes me absolutely like filthy rich and somebody calls me a sellout, I'll know that I made it.
You remember, we talk about that end result about Filthy Rich, but sometimes it's your first deal, your first few deals, 27, 37, and those count.
It takes what, 10
I-
years to become an overnight success.
And guys like me, I've actually been really lazy about them. It's not. And then I look at the guy who's the ant, and he's like, he's taken 37 deals and he's built on them. And so there's another aspect of saying, oh, these, but definitely the other thing is, if you're not actively, it's not saying, oh, maybe I should learn how to monetize off my intellectual property rights. No, because where you are, whatever you have, automatically there are these vampires, Chinese shops, guys, they're coming in, taking it. And so you're going, wow. So you almost have to have a monitoring system but it's for yourself from the beginning. It's like you're and so it's like you're a child and you're on AOL and these adults are coming in and go, oh yeah, it just swoops in. And when I see it, I'm going, wow, it's.
I do have a cousin who works in the copyright. I don't want to say copyright and trademark. I think it's trademark and patent office. So I might give him a call and
So sometimes I think somebody has said, oh, these guys had lifted my stuff and then put it out onto these whatever, and they've actually. So I said, hey, you know what? Sometimes you could even do this if it makes even sense. You go, hey, this is your Redbubble stuff, and now you have a daily interest in monitoring. Maybe nobody's ripping off your designs on their, and you can monetize it. You like this? Buy it.
A lot of custom paint people have had issues where people who don't know what they're doing are taking pictures of other people's work and putting it in their Instagram account and stuff like that. There's not a ton of us in this particular area. I think there's only two or three other guys, and the reason why there's only 2 or 3 other guys is because nobody wants to, it's not very popular. There's Western Pennsylvania is a weird economic black hole.
I had a guy visit me. He worked for Diplomatic Security Service. He was former Navy. He wanted to get a cover-up tattoo. My best friend sent him over. And it was a funny thing because he had this idea, but sending a photo, and I said, look, this is somebody's derivative work. And so we said, let's give me what you're trying to do. I had a friend who was a lawyer. But at least I was saying, one thing, just don't take somebody's work and then, when
you're doing, if you're talking about a copyright infringement. Copyright infringement only happens when you are mass producing something. Yeah,
but even stuff like that,
I've painted the death dealer on a motorcycle helmet before, but I'm the one that's doing the work, and it's a one-time thing. It's not like I'm not scanning that into my computer and making T-shirt after T-shirt after T-shirt. Mass producing things like that, but I've never heard of anybody getting into some weird copyright thing with a
not on tattoo, but it was actually because I understood that's a permanent thing. I said, tell me your story. What are you trying to get? And then I understood it. He goes, it was the fish. He wasn't Chinese, but a Chinese legend of these fish that go up the river, and one of them survives, through the strength. But then I said, there's these other fish. They look like they're dead. He goes, that's my divorce. And I go, they'll make it so don't make it a derivative of it, but make it every inch has to match.
Yeah, and, that's what I tell my customers to think about their paint jobs like a tattoo, because so many times they'll be like, I want to get my bike painted, but I don't know what I want. I'm like, well, let me get my wire rim glasses. You lay over on that chaise lounge. I'll get my clipboard. You can tell me everything about your mother, because now I got to get to know you really, really well in order to get the paint job that you like. And a lot of times it's just come down to what's your favorite color and what's your heritage, and we can do something like that. you know, with Celtic knot work, or, you know, something like, you know, like something Native American. Sometimes people have good ideas. Sometimes they're typical. Sometimes they have no idea, you know, but, I am really leaving.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay.
Max.
Okay. Good night.
And
Take care.
thanks, Melissa, for hanging out. She's still here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'll see you around again. I'm sure we're not going to lose contact with each other.
Okay.
Be
Got
good,
my
man.
emails and okay. Take care, man. Good night.
Have a good weekend.